California's future on the line.
I think we need more housing.
This is the scariest part of my trip, looking at that price.
We've heard their promises.
$3 gas, cut your electric bills in half.
I'm going to take on this special interest.
This is about you.
Definitely a lot of race to go.
And it all comes down to this: which candidates will move on in the race to become the next governor of the Golden State? CBS News Bay Area coverage of the California primary starts now.
And good evening, everyone. I'm Sarah Donchie.
I'm Devin Field.
And I'm Elizabeth Cook. And thank you for joining us for our special coverage of the California primary right here on CBS News Bay Area.
All right, this is the night we've been waiting for. It is a big night all across our state. After months of campaigning and debates, the crowded field of candidates will be narrowed down to just two in the race for California's next governor.
Yeah, our team is going to be with you for the next 3 hours, bringing you the results in all of tonight's biggest races. We also have crews that are fanned out across the Bay Area and the state with the candidates as they watch those returns come in.
Yeah, polls closed just a few minutes ago, and we're getting a first look at the batch of new results. Remember, the top two candidates, regardless of party, will advance to the general election come November. Our Ryan Yamamoto traveled down to Southern California and is with Javier Becerra's campaign, the Democratic candidate who's had a slight edge in the race so far. Ryan, what's the mood like there?
Well, Liz, the energy has definitely changed because within the last 20 minutes or so, Javier Becerra and his family have arrived here. And behind the scenes, we can hear cheers from his supporters and staff cheering him on because, once again, he is the front runner in this race. And it's been a long road and a long journey for Javier Becerra and his campaign. Remember, only 2 months ago, he was trailing in the polls, only polling in the single digits. But that completely changed after disgraced Congressman Eric Swalwell dropped out of the race for California governor. From there, we saw Democrats slowly get behind Becerra, seeing his late surge as a frontrunner. And I had a chance to speak with the members of his campaign, talking about that long journey and what we can expect from Becerra tonight.
Javier Becerra has been running for almost a year, and really the last 6 to 8 weeks on fire, and you know, a few more days is okay. I think the crowd's going to lift him. You know, folks are very excited to hear him. Folks are very excited. I mean, we had a rally, a GOTV rally on Sunday, and it was just extraordinary. I mean, you know, at the convention center in Long Beach, and it almost seemed like, you know, the place was rocking up and down. So I expect something similar here, yeah, I think it's going to be a good night.
So it is a night that Javier Becerra's campaign hoping it will be a celebration, but we are told that although he is now on the premises here in downtown Los Angeles, he may not take the stage until 9:30 or so. Of course, much will depend on what those early returns say about his campaign and his race for California governor. Back to you.
All right, Ryan, we'll be checking in with you throughout the evening. Still no results yet, but we'll keep you posted. Meanwhile, Republican Steve Hilton, he has been leading the polls consistently, taking one of the top 3 spots. Here's a look at his election watch party in Southern California. We'll have a live report from his campaign very shortly. And billionaire Tom Steyer spent the most money by far on this race, his own money. Our Max Darrow is live for us in San Francisco with the Steyer campaign. Max, what's it like there?
The energy's really started to pick up here at the Steyer watch party in the city, but just moments ago, I did get the chance to hear from some of Steyer's senior campaign advisors, and when it comes to setting the tone and the expectations for tonight, effectively, Steyer and Steve Hilton are battling it out for that number 2 spot, pending any major surprises from the Becerra campaign. But they aren't expecting definitive results to come in because so many people held on to their ballots, especially Democratic voters, until the last minute, as we've seen all throughout this primary election. And they've cautioned supporters that the initial returns probably aren't going to look that good for Steyer. Their word, patience, as the evening and night really just progresses, possibly even into the morning. His campaign does think that the late surge of voters will actually work out in Steyer's favor. However, they think they have a good appeal with many of those voters who decided to wait this primary election season. Now, Steyer's popularity also has risen over the last couple of weeks. He was trailing Hilton for a while up until the last couple of polls, which did show him with that slight edge over Steve Hilton. He is considered to be the most progressive candidate running in this particular race. He does have a lot of support from labor unions, from climate groups, and some of the progressive lawmakers, including Representative Ro Khanna. But that support from progressives isn't necessarily universal, because there are a lot of voters who struggled with the fact that he is a billionaire and he is putting a lot of money into this campaign. We have seen a lot of money from Steyer, hundreds of millions of dollars of his own fortune dumping into this campaign. And towards the end of it, he and Javier Becerra really have traded a lot of punches. They've gone after each other a lot, so much so that in the previous weekend, the last weekend before tonight, there was an ad that Steyer's campaign released where the Becerra team threatened to sue him over it. So we've seen those punches really get thrown toward the end of this campaign. But bringing it back to tonight, the atmosphere, pretty calm right now. It's a party, of course. You know, we're seeing people who are excited to be here, but not a lot of people are expecting to get a definitive result between now and 11 o'clock. We'll wait to hear from Steyer later this evening, but we'll send it back to you there in the studio.
Max Darrow live for us, the Tom Steyer Watch Party in San Francisco. Max, thank you so much.
Okay, so much to talk about. We want to bring in two of our political experts joining us now live. Caroline Heldman from Occidental College and Lonnie Chen from the Hoover Institute at Stanford. Thank you both. It's so nice to see you again on this election night once again. Lonnie, I'm going to start with you. Lots of talk about how the results might take even more time than usual. Kind of walk me through what you might expect to prepare our viewers. Are we going to find out tonight, or in a quote unquote worst case scenario, how long could it take? All right, we're going to work on, Lonnie, hold tight real quick. We're working on your audio for just a moment. So I'm going to go to Caroline while we work out those issues. Caroline, let me ask you the same question while we work through Lonnie's audio there. How long do you think this could take?
Well, it could take weeks. We are hoping that it won't take that long, but what we do know is that about 85% of voters on the Democratic side, especially, waited to submit their ballots until Election Day. And so in the state of California, we have a reputation throughout the country for being slow on counting this, so much so that Governor Newsom actually signed a bill into law saying that all 58 counties in California have to get their results in within 13 days. 13 days! That tells you, how we have an issue with this, how much California has an issue with the count. So a couple of things could happen, and I think we need to be worried about misinformation being spread in the early days if any of these scenarios happen. One is that Tom Steyer will actually be polling very low, as his campaign has noted. I think they're right. I think we'll see returns for Becerra. I think Hilton might be riding high, even higher, perhaps than Becerra up front, and then that position will shift. And if that position shifts, I would anticipate that, conspiracy theorists will come out and say that this is a rigged election. I just want to be clear that this is a totally normal part of the process. The big question, of course, whether Javier Becerra, likely the leader right now, will be facing an attack from the left, which will make a very spicy general election, or more of a kind of a done deal where he will likely best Steve Hilton, but it will be more of a partisan battle.
Yeah, let me ask you about Steve Hilton. Obviously, there was this conversation late in the game, Caroline, where there was talk of maybe Chad Bianco should drop out of the race, according to some Republicans. That didn't happen. He's obviously siphoning votes. One is siphoning votes away from the other. What is the likelihood of a real contender here? We haven't had a Republican governor in California for a long time.
Sarah, I don't think that a Republican can really compete in California, especially in the age of Trump, especially a candidate with Trump's endorsement. If you look at his polling nationally, he's in the 30s, and in California, it's even lower. We are a Democratic-dominated, one-party-dominated state, whether you like that or not. Those are the facts of the map for Steve Hilton. So while I think he is an incredibly strong candidate for Republicans, an unusually strong candidate for a California race, I don't think he has much of a shot when you look at the numbers.
All right, Caroline, thank you so much for your time. Lonnie, hang with us. We're not ignoring you. We're going to get your audio back. We are going to be talking to you both throughout the night. So much to discuss. So Lonnie, hang tight. we'll speak to you in just a minute. But let's go to Devin now, who's looking at one of our very closely watched local races.
Yeah, we're talking about Nancy Pelosi's seat. For the first time in almost 40 years, Sarah, Nancy Pelosi's name, it is not going to be on the ballot to represent San Francisco in Congress. The former House Speaker, she is retiring after her current term is up in early January. Here are some of the 4 top contenders, the candidates in this race. We don't have any of the results just yet, but State Senator Scott Wiener has enjoyed frontrunner status for most of this campaign. But it was San Francisco Supervisor Connie Chan who got Pelosi's endorsement. She got it late about 2 weeks ago, more or less, and they are also being challenged by former software engineer Shoykat Chakrabarty. All right, so we're going to get those results a little bit later on, but our Kara St. Cyr, she has been following this race very closely, and she is joining us tonight in San Francisco. Kara.
Yes, I am at Chakrabarty's campaign party at the chapel. So this party did kick off at 8 o'clock, so there's not too many people here yet, but it is starting to get some people coming in, and I've spoken to some of his supporters, and they're very excited and confident about their candidate. They've kind of, positioned him as a political outsider, and while his opponents have seen that as a liability, a lot of his base see that as something that makes him unique and almost trustworthy. But, we have this candidate with us tonight, so thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us. We know it's early and that you've made the time. So first, just tell us how you're feeling on this election day.
I'm feeling great. I mean, the energy all day has been incredible. We had about 500 volunteers show up starting at 6 a.m. this morning to knock every door in the city that we had on our list. We've knocked tens of thousands of doors just today, had thousands of conversations, and people have been going at it, and as you see, they're still at it, right? So we're feeling great going into tonight. I think this field operation, it's the largest in San Francisco history. As far as I can tell, it's the largest in U.S. congressional race history, and I think that's what's going to make the difference tonight.
And of course, you've been kind of teetering between that second and third place in the poll. So what's making you optimistic going into this election night?
It's the people. It really is the people who've shown up to put the work in on the doors, on the phones. When we started this campaign, because I've been running on this message of change as a anti-establishment outsider, that energized this huge base of volunteers. We had about 4,000 people sign up to volunteer, and we invested in that. We wanted to make sure that the people who are most enthusiastic supporters could do this for a living as well. So we have ended up building a massive operation, and that doesn't show up in the polls. I've run a lot of insurgent campaigns. When I ran AOC's race, we saw the same thing. She was down in the polls, but we ran on field and we won. Zoran's campaign, same thing. Even Daniel Ulrich's campaign in San Francisco, it was this field operation that won that campaign, so we're hoping that's going to do the same for us.
All right, well, thank you so much. I know you have a lot to get to, so you are free to go. We appreciate you giving us this time. So later on tonight, Chakrabarty is expected to speak at around 9:45, and the campaign party will be in full swing at that point. So I'm going to send it back to you, Devin.
All right, thank you very much, Kara St. Cyr, and kudos to the candidates for accessibility early in the night. Now, we're getting some of the first results coming in the race for governor. Now, these are some of the early voting. You can see that Steve Hilton is out in front at this point. Javier Becerra is in second, and Tom Steyer is in third, followed by Chad Bianco. Now, these are expected to change across the course of the evening. A lot of people held on to their ballots late into the election and dropped them off only in the last couple of days. Those are likely not represented in this initial batch of ballots that have been counted. And we are, of course, just getting started with our election primary coverage. The votes, as we mentioned, Sarah, they are just being counted. We got some of the early ones just now.
Yeah, 6% of the votes in. It's going to be a long night. We're going to have more results in this closely watched governor's race. We'll also check in on some of our local measures coming up next.
And we'll be right back. Let's take a live look from San Jose Mayor Matt Mahan's watch party right now. Remember, Mahan got a lot of funding from Silicon Valley, but he has been trailing in recent polls. So we'll see how well he does tonight. Our very own Len Ramirez is out with the Mahan campaign. We'll check back in with him a little bit later in this hour. But here's a look at the results so far for California's governor. Only 6% of the votes are in, and right now Steve Hilton is leading the pack with 27.8% of the vote, followed by Javier Becerra with 24% and Tom Steyer at 17%. Devin?
All right, thank you, Liz. That was Matt Mahan's wife that we saw there at the podium. We'll get back to the Mahan campaign a little bit later in the show. County election workers are trying to get us the results of today's election as quickly as they possibly can. We got a little bit of those just a second ago. We're going to have a lot of the late returns to count tonight. Our Suji Nam, she is live in San Mateo County to give us a bit of a behind-the-scenes look at how those votes are tabulated, especially with so many ballots coming in so late. Suji.
Devin, the polls may have closed about 20 minutes ago, but the night is just getting started for the election workers here at the headquarters in San Mateo. Earlier today, I had the opportunity to go inside the ballot processing center where staff and volunteers were tabulating the thousands of votes that had been coming in both in person and vote by mail. I talked to San Mateo County's Assistant Chief Elections Officer, Jim Irizarry, who said they have seen a spike in ballots at the drop boxes these past 2 days as voters have been waiting until the last minute to make their decision.
It's been a wait and see type of voter. I think everybody's waiting to the end, like yesterday and today and this weekend. We're seeing, again, it's reflected in the numbers that we're seeing right now. So people have been holding back until the end to kind of size up the election and determine where they want to go.
It wasn't a clear choice, to tell you the truth. There's so much differences between every candidate, and it's not easy to sift through that with so many candidates. Probably it will be easier in the November election when there are only few to sift through. So.
Officials here in San Mateo County expect about 50%, if not a bit more, of the total ballots to be tabulated tonight. And of course, we'll get a more official number later this week. I'll send it back to you.
All right, Suji, thank you very much. Sarah.
Okay, let's take a look at some of our local races. Still early, so that's our caveat. Let's begin in San Francisco, a battle of two competing measures. You probably saw ads for Prop D being called the overpaid CEO tax. It would raise taxes on companies where the CEOs make at least 100 times more than the median employee. Now, supporters said that money could bring in $300 million a year for safety services, for critical services, but the city controller was skeptical and found that it could also cost the city hundreds of jobs on that front, and it could actually slow down the economy. Results not in yet. We're going to keep checking on this. Voters in Oakland are also deciding on a measure that would add a new tax for single-family homes and apartments. That's Measure E. It would allow for a parcel tax ranging from $131 to $192 a year, and it would go to city services if approved. The mayor's been pushing for this. The city says it could raise $34 million for 9 years. Right now, we do have very, very preliminary results. Not much of the vote counted yet, but right now, it looks like the no vote barely holding. Again, so many more votes to be counted. We have a lot more coming up after the break. Of course, we're keeping an eye on the governor's race for you. That is a huge one tonight.
Oh, of course. We're also going to go down to Southern California, where voters are getting a reality check with one candidate that has shaken up the race to be LA's mayor.
A lot more excitement coming up. We'll be right back. Welcome back to our election coverage here of the California primary, the race that everybody's been curious about, the California governor's race. Looks like about 17% of the votes have been counted so far, and it looks like right now Steve Hilton is leading with about 28.9%, followed by Javier Becerra and Tom Steyer. But as we've been saying, Devin, a lot can happen throughout the night. It's going to take a while to count all those ballots, so those numbers could definitely change. But there's another race that we're following, right?
Yeah, you know, obviously the governor's race, that is the big prize tonight. And probably some of these early ballots that have come in, those are people that made up their mind early. And as we know, there's a lot of people that kind of procrastinated or hadn't really reached that decision and return their ballots late. So we'll have to see if these numbers hold across the evening. But we're looking at a number of different races all across the state. Another one of those races is in Southern California. It's been making a lot of headlines. It appears former reality TV star Spencer Pratt, he is trying to oust sitting Mayor Karen Bass in the race to be LA's mayor. Well, right now, as you can see, Karen Bass is right out in front. But we do have Spencer Pratt. He's got a respectable 28%. And then we also have someone on the city council, Nithya Raman, with about 20%. We'll have to see if those early returns hold as well. Now, Tom Waite, he has been keeping a very close eye on this hotly contested race. He is live in Los Angeles tonight at a Karen Bass watch party. What is the mood like out there?
And good evening to you, Devin. Well, it's pretty jubilant right now. There's a lot of energy here. Many of Bass's supporters are here, the California Democratic Party. This is kind of their hub right now. I think we can sort of pan off and show you a little bit of what's going on. We're kind of packed in here pretty tight. But as you were just kind of discussing, this has been a really tight race. LA Mayor Karen Bass is polling on top in most polls, but just barely in the 25, 26% range. And, you know, obviously that means she's not going to be able to win this outright if those numbers hold. She has been challenged really by her, by the people that she's going up against over her handling of the homeless crisis here in Southern California, and also, of course, the Palisades fire 1 year ago. So we'll see how she plays out in the election tonight, but certainly she is facing some tough challenges. We'll see where the numbers land. Reporting live in LA, I'm Tom Waite.
Tom, thank you for that. I want to send it over to Matt Mahan's campaign where he is speaking right now. Let's take a listen.
Make our voices heard all the time, not just on election day. That's what this campaign is about, and it's what I have always been about. Government should work for you, not the politicians or the special interests. I'm proud. I'm proud of what we have accomplished together in just 4 months for many reasons. Here are 3. First, we set the conversation and the tone of this race. California moved closer to the right ideas because we brought them to the forefront. That started before I even knew I was going to jump in, when we invited the candidates to San Jose to see what was working on homelessness. And even my Republican opponents couldn't deny our progress. All right, boys, off the stage. We did it again when we released our plan to build more housing, and all the candidates had to rework their own to catch up. We came out with a plan to save Hollywood by bringing film production back, and our opponents once again followed suit. After we called to reform the gas tax to provide immediate relief to working families, every debate included a question asking our opponents if they would do the same. And if our next governor actually implements the solutions we offered, our city will be better off for it, and so will our entire state. Second, I am so proud that we ran a campaign focused on results, not empty rhetoric or impossible promises. I am, and Luke, please cover your ears, a get shit done Democrat. That's how we ran this race, and it's how we run San Jose. And third, more than anything, I am so proud to tell the story of what we've started to do here in San Jose and what it means for our state. Over the past 4 months, everywhere I go, in every room I've walked into, I've said the same 7 words. Here's what we're doing in San Jose. I've had the privilege of telling our whole state about our city, about our problems, about our progress, about our people. I met dozens of folks in the Palisades, Altadena, and Malibu who lost their homes. Some are still paying mortgages on empty lots, wondering if they'll ever get to rebuild. I told them how we unblocked thousands of new homes that are now under construction by cutting excessive fees, by removing unnecessary regulation, by approving permits in weeks, not years. And I told them, if we can do it in San Jose, we could do it for them too. They have hope because we proved California can do better. I met a man named Clark in MacArthur Park. MacArthur Park is LA's version of our Columbus Park before we cleared it and moved hundreds of people indoors. Clark used to manage Pizza Huts until he lost his job and became socially isolated during the pandemic. He's been homeless ever since. I told him what we've done here, how we've moved thousands of people indoors by building 2,000 tiny homes and converted motel rooms, reduced homelessness by 1/3. I told him how hard we fought together against a status quo that accepted sprawling tent encampments as inevitable. And I told him if we could do it here in San Jose, we could do it in Los Angeles too. Clark has hope because we proved California can do better. I met the Blue Angels in Oakland, a group of neighbors who patrol Chinatown to keep their community safe. We talked about crime, from retail theft and public drug use to anti-Asian hate, which makes people feel unsafe being outside day or night. I thanked them for what they're doing and told them it shouldn't have to be this way. I told them San Jose became the safest big city in the country last year. I told them we reduced gun violence. I told them we've reduced gun violence by 71%, more than any other big city in the nation, and solved 100% of homicides nearly 4 years running. And I told them if we can do it in San Jose, we can do it in Oakland too. They have hope. They have hope. Because we proved California can do better. I met Christina, Zulema, and Naomi in downtown LA who are dealing with a different kind of fear. They each own a business in their fashion district. And their businesses are on the brink of closing because indiscriminate ICE raids have terrorized their entire neighborhood. I told them how in San Jose we've banned law enforcement from unnecessarily wearing masks and funded legal services to ensure due process for our neighbors. Zulema made Sylvia and me promise we would come back and do the same for them.
And you are watching San Jose Mayor Matt Mahan address his supporters at a watch party there in San Jose. Very interesting speech there. We've seen recently Mahan trailing in the polls at single digits, but he got a lot of support from Silicon Valley, especially those big tech companies.
Yeah, Mahan is a moderate Democrat. His argument to voters, as we heard there, was The programs and the success that I've experienced in San Jose, I think that can be replicated elsewhere. I think that can be a blueprint in other communities. But the concern for his campaign, he was a late entry into this race. Did he give himself enough runway to gain traction with the voters?
Because he was an unknown. A lot of people didn't know who Matt Mahan was, and they knew San Jose, but in Southern California, they don't know of the significance of a city like that.
With some spicy language to deliver the messaging there, I should note.
Yeah. All right. So we'll have to see how those results. But he was polling about 5%. Yes. He had made sort of a surge, and then support sort of receded in the waning days of the campaign. We'll have to see what happens as the results come in.
That's right.
Our election night coverage continues next with an in-depth breakdown of the results we have so far.
Plus, who will replace disgraced Congressman Eric Swalwell? A closer look at the race for his seat. That's next.
Polls closed just about 30 minutes ago. We have ballots still being counted right now all over the Bay Area. Welcome back to our California primary coverage. I'm Sarah Donchie.
Yeah, obviously a lot on the line tonight for the top candidates in the race for governor.
That's right. Only two will move on to the general election in November. But let's go ahead and look at the results so far for California governor. 37% of the vote is in. Javier Becerra taking the lead there with 26.3%, followed by Steve Hilton with 26%. Tom Steyer at 19%, followed by Chad Bianco and Katie Porter. And we have crews with all the top candidates tonight. Here's a look at Javier Becerra's campaign party in Los Angeles and Steve Hilton's watch party there in Huntington Beach. We are expecting to hear from the candidates, and we'll bring you that when that happens. Sarah?
Liz, thank you so much. Voters in Oakland are deciding on a measure that would add a new tax for single-family homes and apartment units. Measure E would allow for parcel tax ranging from $131 to $192 a year. If approved, it would go to city services. Mayor Barbara Lee has been pushing for this, and the city says it could raise $34 million every year for 9 years. Still very, very early results right here, but it looks like so far 55.1% of voters are voting no on this measure. Again, very early. We'll have to get to a percentage of the votes that are actually being counted here, but early results with only 18,000 votes counted in the no category and 14,000 on the other side. Also in Oakland, tax relief for some small businesses on the ballot. Measure C would cut business tax bills next year for some businesses that gross under $1 million a year. The cuts would also apply to new companies, no matter what their size is. Still, again, early results here, but this is a much wider margin with 76.4% of voters voting to install and implement this. Joining us now is Oakland Mayor Barbara Lee. So thank you so much for joining us on such a busy night, Mayor Lee. So I know it's very early, and I know that you have been pushing for Prop E, Measure E rather. What's your reaction to these very, very preliminary results so far? All right, Mayor Lee, I'm so sorry to interrupt. We are having a few issues with your sound here, but we do want to know what you have to say about both of these measures in Oakland and about your own sort of political future in the city of Oakland and beyond. Oh, there we go. Mayor Lee, you're back. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. So if you could start over with your reaction to the results.
Sure. Well, what you said, it's still very early, but I just want to take this moment to thank all of the volunteers and everyone who helped in this grassroots campaign. The firefighters were phenomenal. We had men and women all over the city working to really explain why Measure E was necessary, and in fact to try to clarify a lot of the misinformation that was out there, because it's important that people understood that what we said in Measure E in terms of public safety, in terms of firefighters, in terms of making sure ambulances and fire stations and all of the public safety issues in that spending plan were transparent, that people knew what Measure E was about, to make sure that any misinformation was countered by the truth. And so it's still early, but I just wanted to thank everyone who came around every day, every weekend, phone bank, knocked on doors, and it was really a phenomenal campaign.
Mayor Lee, so right now, again, it's super early, so we have plenty of time for things to change, but it looks like the majority of voters for now are voting this measure down. Now, for the critics of E who had voiced concerns about whether they had full trust in the city of Oakland to take this tax and implement it properly, people who said taxes have been raised in Oakland before, we haven't seen the results that we wanted, we still have an imbalanced budget, and we have a big deficit. What would you say to those voters who were skeptical of that?
Sure, and I understand the skepticism and the trust. That's why I wanted to make sure we were transparent and people knew what this was for. And past measures, let me just explain a couple of things. There was a lot of misinformation about the past measure, Measure NN. Quite frankly, that money hasn't even been spent yet. Today was the day that the council actually approved the spending plan. Yet voters were told, residents were told that Measure NN money had been misspent. That's just not the truth. And again, today, the council just passed the plan. What was required was to develop a plan on how to spend Measure NN money, which was for a comprehensive public safety strategy getting to 700 police officers. So there was a lot of misinformation. So what I've been trying to do is just clarify the fact that parcel taxes and taxes that have been passed have been used for exactly what they were designated for, what the voters voted for. The general fund is required to match parcel tax revenue. The general fund has gaps in it because, and I use the example, gasoline 3 years ago, 2 years ago, was $4 a gallon. Now it's $6 a gallon. So that general fund is something that needs to be, in terms of closing the structural deficit, we need to close. So having said that, we've reduced the structural deficit this year. I presented a balanced budget to the council. We're in the process of moving that forward. The council is going to weigh in a couple of weeks. And so we're in a very fiscally, I would say, very accountable space right now, because we balance the budget, we're reducing the structural deficit, but we have a heck of a lot of work to do in terms of closing some of these gaps in the general fund and making sure that our public safety strategy continues.
Oakland Mayor Barbara Lee, thank you so much for your time on election night. I know this is a busy night for you, so I appreciate you talking to our viewers tonight.
Yes, thank you very much.
All right, take care. Okay, so voters in the East Bay are busy too. They're deciding who will replace disgraced Congressman Eric Swalwell in District 14. He was one of the early leading candidates in the California governor's race, was polling very high before multiple women came forward accusing him of sexual assault. Swalwell denied those allegations, but later actually resigned completely from Congress. But tonight's race is about the full term for the District 14 seat. Now, here is where we stand so far. We've got 40% of votes in, with Aisha Wahab out front with a commanding 36.2%. Melissa Hernandez following with 16%. Again, only 40% of the votes counted at this point, but that will continue to change and evolve. Kevin Coe has been following this race from Fremont Beauty School, where attorney Rocky Asrani is holding her watch party. Hi, Kevin.
Good evening. You know, we are coming to you live in Fremont, but this is a race that will be directly affecting the lives of anyone living here, Union City, Hayward, Pleasanton, Livermore, and Dublin. Now, we are talking about the top 3 candidates today or tonight that raise the most money throughout their campaign. So I want to start here, right behind me. You can see the watch party going on for Rocky Asrani. In fact, I do have to mention, she is a political outsider who's raised more funding than all the other candidates combined. Asrani is an attorney, business owner, and an educator based here in Fremont. She's running as a Democrat, but says both political parties are leading the country in the wrong direction. Now, we can also say that about Aisha Wahab, a Democratic state senator who has spoken out against her own party in the past. She also has the heaviest endorsements, including the California Democratic Party, the California Police Chiefs Association, and workers' unions, including SEIU. However, when it comes to firefighters unions, that is Melissa Hernandez's ballpark. She's got the most of those specific endorsements across the East Bay. The former Dublin mayor also has the support from mayors in Dublin, Hayward, Livermore, and Pleasanton.
I feel good. I feel that the people of the Congressional District 14 are excited to have new leadership come in, and I also feel that they have a lot of trust in me.
I personally agree with the American public when we say that D.C. is out of touch, and that is why I'm saying I'm going to run for this seat. I'm going to let the voters decide who they want to be their elected representative and not some puppet from D.C.
I mean, we understand it's going to be a while before we actually know what the results were. I think tonight was more about the volunteers, the people that have put their trust, whether it's the endorsers or the donors, they put their trust in me. I wanted to bring everyone together to celebrate that process.
Now, both Wahab and Hernandez are not having watch parties tonight. I'm told they are both watching at home. Asrani is here behind me, but I'm also told that she, like the other candidates, they're going to be waiting this out for the next couple of days. But keep in mind, though, in 2 weeks, District 14 has a special election. That specific one is to finish out Eric Swalwell's current term. Back to you.
All right, Kevin, thank you so much for reporting live from Fremont. We appreciate it.
And we're going to look at some of the latest polling results for the governor's race. You can see that Steve Hilton is still out in the lead, neck and neck, basically, with Javier Becerra, basically 26%. Tom Steyer is in third place now, just a tick under 20%. But we heard earlier from Max Darrow, and his campaign staffers say that they think that this outcome is going to change over the course of the evening. So stay tuned as more and more results come in, about 38% up at this point. All right, so up next, we got a big test. We're going to have more of those election results. We are waiting as they roll in, about 38% in, which means more than 60% still waiting on.
It's anybody's game. Stay with us. Welcome back to CBS News Bay Area's coverage of the primary election results. Let's take a look at the governor's race right now, with 38% of the votes being counted so far. Right now, Steve Hilton leading the pack with 26.3%, followed closely behind by Javier Becerra with 26%, Tom Steyer coming in at 19.5%, followed by Chad Bianco and Katie Porter. So certainly a lot to break down with these results. I want to bring in CBS News' Executive Director of Elections and Surveys, Anthony Salvanto, joining us live now with a closer look at these numbers. Anthony, break it all down for us. What are you seeing?
How you doing, Liz? Look, you see these numbers changing right behind me? That is live. We are getting the latest as it comes in. And what you've seen is Becerra and Hilton kind of flipping back and forth, trading places as we go. That's just how tight that is. Steyer seeing if he can get in over that 20%, maybe get into that top two. So we'll see. Let me show you a couple of things. First, the statewide map. The places where Becerra is winning the counties, they're in yellow and Hilton is in blue. Now, this map is going to be a little bit reminiscent of, if I go back and pull up the 2024 presidential map, blue areas are where Democrats dominate along the coast. Those are places Harris won. The red areas where Trump won, the red counties there. Now that, when we go back to tonight's map, you see Hilton, maybe no surprise, doing well, which is what he has to do in those Republican areas. The other thing I'll show you is, let's go really local here in the Bay Area. And our friends at Vote Hub have connected with us to make what I think are some really cool maps here, and I'm going to zoom in for you, and I'm going to show you where Becerra is doing better. See, he's doing really well in the city. He's doing well down the peninsula. And if I switch this over to places who's winning where, you'll see Tom Steyer is actually doing fairly well in the city proper. But then as you get down the peninsula here, as you go down towards Burlingame, Hilton does a little better. Then down in San Mateo, that's all Becerra, around Pacifica as well. So that's a more local breakdown of what you're seeing as all this unfolds, Liz.
Interesting, Anthony. And I'm curious, when we look at these first numbers, this first batch, as we call it, of ballots coming in, these are all the absentee ballots, correct?
Yeah. Well, that's a great point. You see, what happens is we saw from the voter files and the reports of returns that a lot of Republicans had returned their ballots early. You could see that on the file. And we anticipated if they were counted first or early that Hilton might be doing well on them. But subsequently, as more ballots come in, a lot of Democrats have hung on to their ballots, perhaps trying to make up their minds. That might shift things as well. So, yeah, that's something, a dynamic we might see. At 46% in, I'm going to stick with my overall estimate that this will hit 8.5 million. No reason to change that right now. So, yeah, still a ways to go, Liz.
All right, still a ways to go. Anthony Salvanto, thanks so much for that breakdown. All right, we have a lot more coming up. Will voters continue to fund Smart Train? We'll take a look at some of our local measures as well. Plus, we'll break down the results of a closely watched governor's race. We'll be right back.
And welcome back. These are live pictures from Javier Becerra's campaign in Los Angeles tonight. Now you can see that Becerra has been really neck and neck with Steve Hilton for much of the night, each of them getting roughly 26% of the vote, with about 48% of the vote being counted at this point. In Alameda County, law and order is also on the ballot tonight. Ursula Jones-Dixon in Alameda County, she is running to keep her job as the district attorney. She is the incumbent. Her challenger is the recalled district attorney, Pamela Price, who was ousted from office 19 months ago and is back on the ballot tonight. As you can see there, Ursula Jones-Dixon seems like she has a commanding 66% to 22% lead at this point. Bringing up third is Gopal Krishnan, who is an immigration attorney. Now, Jones-Dixon could win this race outright if these numbers hold and if they keep going in this direction. We will, of course, continue to watch that vote as more ballots are counted. Sarah?
All right, Devin, so much to cover right now. So let's talk about some of our local measures here. Voters in San Jose are deciding on if the city should increase its hotel tax. Measure A would bump up the hotel tax from 10 to 12%. The city says that would help raise about $10 million every year. Right now, it looks like the vast majority of voters, 54,000 so far, 66% of them of the votes that have been counted do support that. North Bay voters are deciding on funding the SMART train. Measure B in Marin and Sonoma County would extend a 1/4 cent sales tax to fund the rail system through 2059. Supporters say that it's not actually a tax increase, and opponents say that the money should be spent elsewhere. So far, it looks like that is broadly supported, 70% in Marin. And here are the results for the same measure in Sonoma County. We'll show those to you as well. Pretty much the same, 70% of voters so far approving that. And voters in Contra Costa County, they are deciding on extending a protection on open spaces in the county. Measure A would extend for 25 years a policy that protects most of the county's land from urban development, and the vast majority of voters there are in support of that thus far. Still more votes to be counted. We are here for you all evening with up-to-the-minute results. We'll be right back coming up after this. Welcome back to our special election night coverage. Right now, 47% of the vote counted in the race for California governor. And as expected, Steve Hilton is doing well early on. A lot of Republicans voted earlier than some Democrats who held on to their ballots. As you can see, almost halfway in terms of votes being counted in the governor's race, guys.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see kind of the push and pull between these top three candidates. We knew that it was most likely going to be Hilton, Becerra, and Steyer, in which order they were coming with. find out soon.
Yeah, and they've kind of seesawed a little bit, but they've held steady for the last couple of updates of those ballots. There's a lot more that's going to happen. There are votes to be counted. Stick with us for that.
Welcome back. It is election night. I'm Sarah Donchie.
I'm Devin Feely.
And I'm Elizabeth Cook. Thanks so much for joining us for our special coverage of the California primary right here on CBS News Bay Area. And it's been a busy hour since the polls officially closed at 8 o'clock, with numbers just coming in for several closely watched races.
Yeah, Liz, we're starting to get more and more now. They're trickling in. A big night across the state after months of campaigning, all of those ad blitzes and the debates. The crowded field of candidates will be narrowed down to just two in the race for California's next governor. And although it's still early, the race for those top two spots is beginning to take shape, at least for now.
Yeah, our team's going to be with you throughout the night, bringing you the results in all of those big races. We also have crews that are fanned out across the Bay Area and the state with the candidates as they watch those returns come in. We're going to be checking in also with our political experts for their take on how things are shaping up in these really important races.
Yeah, it's been really interesting to watch, Devin. And, you know, polls closed about an hour ago, as we mentioned. And in the governor's race, the top two candidates, regardless of party, are going to advance to the general election in November. I want to take a look at those numbers right now, with 47% of the votes so far being counted. Steve Hilton right now taking a very narrow lead with 26.6% of the vote, followed by Javier Becerra, 25.9%, Tom Steyer trailing behind him at 19.7%. Our Ryan Yamamoto is live in downtown Los Angeles with Javier Becerra's campaign, the Democratic candidate who has had a slight edge coming into tonight, and early results show just how tight this race really is. Ryan, what's the mood like there?
Yeah, Liz, a lot of cautiously optimistic mood right now. As those early returns are getting posted behind me, the crowd, you can hear some cheers. You can also hear some murmurs here in downtown Los Angeles as Javier Becerra and, like you said, Republican Steve Hilton appear to be neck and neck in this primary for California governor. And why not? It's been a long road for the Becerra campaign. even though Becerra entered as a frontrunner for California governor in this primary, 2 months ago, many people had him already counted out, only polling in the single digits. But during his surge, he picked up some major endorsements to help boost his campaign. I had a chance to catch up with Jody Hicks, the president and CEO of Planned Parenthood affiliates of California. What was the decision for Planned Parenthood to endorse and back Javier Becerra?
Yeah, I mean, it came down really to that healthcare experience, but I think it's important to remember when Javier Becerra was HHS secretary, he was the first secretary in the state of, or in the country that visited a Planned Parenthood health center. He was actually at a Planned Parenthood health center the day that Roe v. Wade was overturned in a state that had a ban. And so he was like up close and personal when those providers were having to turn away patients. And so we just know that he understands the plight of the attacks that we're facing right now. He also has a track record for fighting back when he was Attorney General.
Now, from Attorney General, now they're hoping he'll become the next governor after Congressman Eric Swalwell dropped out of the race. It was Becerra who began picking up a lot of those key endorsements, and we are expecting Javier Becerra to take the stage behind me sometime after 9:30. And as those early results start to roll in, once again, as we mentioned, we know Javier Becerra and Republican Steve Hilton appear to be neck and neck, both ahead of Democrat Tom Steyer. But remember, only the top two make it to the November election, the general election. So right now, Javier Becerra is at least in one of those two top spots. So the crowd cautiously optimistic, but there is a lot of optimism here at the Javier Becerra campaign headquarters here in downtown Los Angeles. Liz, back to you.
All right, Ryan, we're going to check in with you a little bit later on in the evening. Thanks so much for that report. Well, speaking of, Republican Steve Hilton leading the polls, leading the race right now, off to a strong start based on early voting from Republicans and, of course, the endorsement of President Donald Trump. Here's a look at his election watch party in Southern California. We're going to have a live report from his campaign very shortly. And billionaire Tom Steyer has been sitting comfortably in third place since results started coming in this evening. Our Max Darrow joins us live now from Steyer's watch party. Max, what's the mood in the room like right now?
You know, we haven't heard from Steyer yet or anybody to really warm up the podium, so people at this point seem just in a good mood here. And it's playing out so far with these early returns exactly how Steyer's campaign figured that it would. Just before those first returns started to come in tonight, senior campaign officials told us they did not expect Steyer to come out on top with an early lead. In fact, they thought Hilton would be at the top, Becerra in second, and Steyer in third. They said as the night progresses, because so many people took their time to vote during this primary election, they think that those late voters will actually play out in Steyer's favor. So they said that they think as the night progresses, you'll see Steyer start to close that gap between the first, second, and third spots, and they're confident that they think it'll work out in Steyer's favor. Still waiting to hear from the candidate himself, hoping that'll happen the next hour or so. You'll be the first to know when it does. We'll send it back to you.
Of our political experts joining us now, Caroline Heldman from Occidental College and Lonnie Chen from the Hoover Institution at Stanford. All right, Lonnie, let me start with you here. Obviously, it's early in the game, and you did warn us that Republicans were voting earlier. Is this race shaping out in a sort of expected way so far, with Steve Hilton leading so far?
Yeah, I think so far we are seeing a race that we expected, with Becerra and Hilton in the 1 and 2 positions. I think it'll be interesting to see as the night goes on, what is that ratio at Bianco, the other Republican? If Bianco stays kind of roughly where he is right now, Steve has to feel pretty good about advancing into that top 2. The Steyer number, I think, is a little weaker probably than he needs to have it even at this early going. I recognize what his campaign is saying about the potential for those late-breaking voters to come his direction. But that gap is starting to get bigger and bigger, it looks like, not smaller and smaller. He needs that gap to begin to shrink if he wants to have any hope of being in that top 2. So if you're Javier Becerra and Steve Hilton right now, you're feeling pretty good about how you're positioned.
Yeah, Caroline, let me ask you about the Steyer votes. We heard Lonnie reference the campaign saying, okay, we knew this was going to be a long one. At what point are you going to feel comfortable saying, okay, we know that really he's not in this anymore?
Well, what's so interesting about the California vote is that because so many waited to vote, and especially Democrats, not only did we expect to see a Republican out in front early on, the first 50%, which is what we have in, just under 50%, the voters look really different than the second 50%. So I would have to see a lot more returns to count Steyer out at this point. I'm with Lonnie. It does feel like Steyer's gap is I'm looking at the gap between Becerra and Steyer, because if you look at this, like Steyer was not really competing with Hilton. He wasn't competing for Republican votes in the final days of this. He was competing with Becerra. He was competing with other Democratic and independent voters who lean Democratic in the state of California. So it is still up in the air, and I think it's important to remember that this is a normal part of the process, and we may not know for days, although hopefully, fingers crossed, before then.
All right, Caroline and Lonnie, thank you. We'll be checking in with you both again soon. For now, we want to go to Kara St. Cyr, who was at a watch party for Scott Wiener. Kara?
Politics that simply preserve.
Yes, so he's actually speaking right now, so I got to talk a little bit softly. But a moment ago, whenever those new polls dropped and people saw that he was at 43%, the room erupted in cheers. People were extremely excited. Now, Senator Wiener has built a very strong reputation in San Francisco. Of course, he has that senator status as of this moment. He was a supervisor, also a deputy city attorney, and he's really relied on that experience to really pull him through this campaign, and it seems to be resonating with a lot of his supporters because he has a lot of longtime people here. So right now he's just speaking and thanking a lot of his supporters for coming out, and also asking people to go to the polls and hoping to really reinvigorate that base that seems to be a little disillusioned with the Democratic Party. So we're going to stay here and see what he has to say, but for now I'm going to bring it back to you.
All right, Kara, thank you so much. We're State Senator Scott Wiener pleased with the results there at his watch party.
Yeah, he's kind of climbed the ladder from San Francisco to Sacramento, and he hopes to the nation's capital if those results hold.
That's right. He's got 44% of the vote right now, so we'll see what happens.
Our election coverage, it continues next.
We'll have more results in the closely watched governor's race coming up. We'll also check in on some of our local measures.
A lot going on. We'll be right back.
Okay, so let's take a look at the numbers here in the race for California governor. 47% of the votes counted now, so we did get a fresh drop of numbers in for you. And right now it looks like Steve Hilton's lead is holding with 26.7% of the vote, with Javier Becerra not too far behind with 25.9%. Tom Steyer rounding out the top three right now with 19.7%. We have reporters fanned out all across the state. Let's go to our reporter, Jeff Nguyen, right now.
So, Elizabeth, there has been a lot of emotion in this room because this seesaw battle between Javier Becerra and Steve Hilton has been very, very tight. In fact, at 7 p.m. tonight, Steve Hilton walked out here and told reporters he is acting as if he is running in third place in the hope of making it to the runoff in November. Now let's go ahead and roll some video for you because the former Fox News commentator says that affordability is at the center of his campaign. His top three priorities: no state income tax on earnings under $100,000, cutting power bills in half, and bringing gas prices down to $3 a gallon by asking the state legislature to suspend the gas tax. On homelessness, he's calling for the removal of encampments and requiring drug and alcohol treatment and mental health services as a condition for shelter. Earlier this evening, he spoke to reporters about California's primary format. He criticizes the rule that if no one gets more than 50% of the vote, the top two vote getters move on to a runoff in November. This past weekend, one poll had him in third place behind Democrats Javier Becerra and Tom Steyer. Take a listen.
Something has to change. The Democrat candidates acknowledge that. They just don't have any alternative options. They don't have any change that will take us in the right direction. That's why we have to fight for the very last vote, because if we miss this opportunity, then we're stuck with another 4 years of the chaos and the costs and the crime and the homelessness and all the things that people want to change. So yes, we are fighting as if we're in third place, because that's the way to make sure we get every vote.
And in April, President Trump endorsed Hilton over the other Republican candidate, Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco. And Hilton was asked whether the president's endorsement would hurt him at a time when the president's polling numbers are falling. However, what Hilton says that he believes that he would do a better job in Sacramento compared to Democrats because he believes he has a strong working relationship with the White House. Reporting live in Huntington Beach, Jeff Nguyen. We'll send it back to you.
All right, Jeff, thank you so much. So we do want to take a look at some of our local races now. So let's start in San Francisco with a battle of two competing measures. Prop D, which is the overpaid CEO tax that would raise taxes on companies where the CEOs make at least 100 times more than the employees. So let's take a look at that. Obviously, we're going to get the right percentage of the vote count in, but so far, 52,957 votes, about 56.9% voters saying no. So voting down this tax, referred to as the overpaid CEO tax. Let's keep this moving now and take another look at some of the other measures in San Francisco. This is San Francisco Measure C, which would decrease business taxes. It would increase tax exemptions for small and mid-sized businesses while also raising tax rates for larger companies for a year. And so far right now, it looks like that too, the mass majority of voters, 63.7%, voting no on that one. But if both C and D pass, the prop with the most votes would go into effect. But that doesn't look like that's going to happen, at least yet, but still more votes to be counted. We also do have a live look right now at Tom Steyer's election night watch party. We are expecting him to speak very soon. He's at the Regency Ballroom here in San Francisco, just a couple minutes away from taking the stage. And once that happens, of course, we will bring those comments to you live. We do have a lot more coming up. After the break, we are keeping an eye on the governor's race for you as more votes are being counted, and we will also go live to Chad Bianco's party in Riverside County.
And we're going to go down to Southern California, where voters are getting a reality check with one candidate who has shaken up the race to be LA's mayor.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
All right, welcome back to a busy night. So let's do a quick check on some of our local races as more results come in. This is for San Francisco's District 2 supervisor. This is the Marina District. Stephen Sherrill way out ahead with 71.2% of the vote right now. And here's a look at District 4. This is in the outer Sunset of San Francisco. This is the race for the Board of Supervisors seat there. Alan Wong also way out front with 52.4% of the vote. And in the city of Richmond, incumbent Mayor Eduardo Martinez facing some challengers here. And so far, it looks like Claudia Jimenez is out in front with 34%. You'll notice that Eduardo Martinez down with 21.9%. In between those two, we have Ahmad Anderson with 29% of the vote. Okay, and we also have a live look right now at Tom Steyer's election night watch party. He's at the Regency Ballroom in San Francisco. He is expected to take the stage any minute now, but we're going to keep an eye on that for you, Liz, and we'll bring that to you once that happens.
All right, well, speaking of, let's take a look at the governor's race right now. Here's a look at the latest results with 48% of the votes counted so far. Steve Hilton taking the lead with 26.7%, followed by Javier Becerra, 25.8%. Tom Steyer there at 19.6%, followed by Chad Bianco at 11.3%. So I want to go live now to Nicole Comstock, who was with Chad Bianco's campaign in Riverside County. Nicole, thanks for being with us. He was receiving pressure from Steve Hilton to drop out of this race. What's the mood like there?
Good evening, you guys. You know, Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco actually became a little bit emotional tonight, talking about how much time he sacrificed with his family in an effort to try to become the next governor of California, saying that at the end of the day, he knows he did everything he could out here in Eastvale and beyond to try to make the California dream attainable again. But right now, early returns show him in fourth place. Now, in a sit-down interview with CBS LA earlier, Bianco he's the self-proclaimed law and order candidate, essentially, and he talked about wanting to roll back sanctuary state laws. Also, he wants to reform homeless programs to focus more so on addiction and mental health treatments, and he wants to lift restrictions on oil and natural gas drilling in order to lower costs in the state. Now, he also made headlines earlier this year for seizing 650,000 ballots from a 2025 special election on redistricting, saying he was investigating alleged fraud. Now, the state Supreme Court made him pause that investigation, and ultimately President Trump endorsed the other Republican candidate in the race.
Nicole, I hate to interrupt you there live at Chad Bianco's watch party, but I want to take us out to Tom Steyer's watch party in San Francisco, where he's about to start speaking.
We're here tonight because our state is in crisis, and so is our nation. California is the richest state in the richest country in the history of the world. It's unacceptable that right now so many Californians struggle to make ends meet. We're about to see the world's first trillionaires, probably in California. We're already witnessing an explosion of wealth concentrated in the hands of the very, very few. The gap between the rich and the poor grows wider by the minute. Prices are higher than ever. Faith in government's ability to do anything is lower than ever. Californians are being priced out of their homes every single day. While it happens, we see billionaires do whatever they have to get whatever they can out of the system, and then do everything they can to hoard their wealth and avoid paying taxes. And we see corporations continue to rig the system for themselves, raising your prices to juice their profits. Screw that. California deserves better. Working people deserve better. Democracy matters. Justice matters. The truth matters. Anyone who says otherwise is invested in a system rigged against you. Here's the truth. For every bill that's too high, there's a special interest profiting off keeping it there. They want you to believe that's inevitable, that it's just how the market works. But that's bullshit. We don't have to accept this. This campaign has been about proving that. My vision for California is based on a simple idea. The well-being of the most vulnerable shouldn't depend on corporations and billionaires choosing to do the right thing. We should have a system based on fairness, not on asking for fairness, where the most privileged pay their fair share not by charity, but by law. A system that reminds them of what I've been saying since the very beginning of this campaign.
You didn't do it all yourselves. The soon-to-be tech trillionaires built their wealth here because California enabled them to. Because ordinary Californians worked hard and sacrificed day after day, year after year to create the system where those billionaires could realize the dreams they came to this state to pursue. The California I believe in is a California where recognizing that hard work and honoring that sacrifice is fundamental to assigning credit and to designing our society. This race, more than any other in recent memory, laid bare the basic operating principle of American politics, a very uncomfortable truth. Money talks. In this race, we saw what corporate money tends to ask for: higher rents, lower wages, permission to pollute, to price gouge, and to treat workers as disposable. And in this race, we saw the way that money from some of the wealthiest people and corporations in the history of the world mobilized when I said I'd tax it fairly. We saw a direct causal relationship between my plan for change and the $55 million of corporate money that flooded in to stop me. Single-payer healthcare, here come the insurance companies. Clean energy, here comes Chevron. Taxing AI, what about Meta? Lowering electric bills, hello PG&E. To quote FDR, never before in all our history have these forces been so united against one candidate as they stand today. They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred. But here's the thing. Their spending wasn't personal. It wasn't about who I am. It was about what the corporations believed I could do. For the corporations, elections are always about policy. For the corporations, politics isn't about parties, it's about profits. They do not think in red and blue teams. They think in red and black ink. They think in dollar signs and balance sheets. Their priorities and decisions have proved soulless. They're totally unconcerned with the well-being of working people, with the health of our democracy, with the very concept of justice. They will support who and whatever they have to in order to usher in a future that is beneficial to their bottom lines. It's why they uniformly back Trump. It's why they uniformly oppose progressives, and none of that was unique to this race. Here they were just especially brazen, because here they were especially scared. The dollar amounts are different, but in elections everywhere, the principle is the same. You want to fight for working people at the expense of corporate profits? Watch corporations do everything in their power to stop you. Usually they try harder to hide what they're doing. And usually they're confident that if they spend enough, whoever's threatening their profits will be forced to back down and go away. This is how working people have been priced out of our politics. This is how the system protects itself. And I'll be the first to say it, that isn't how the system should work. You shouldn't have to be a billionaire to run on single payer. Or to challenge monopolies, or to call out a corrupt system when you see it. But the system depends on its ability to crush anyone who tries. And I know that there are many, many people, activists and organizers and ordinary working people who are out there today and who have been out there for decades, saying and doing all of these things brilliantly and fearlessly. Those are the people I'm in this race for. Those are the people I'm in this race with. The corporate interests came at us with everything they had, and we didn't back down. We were absolutely uncompromising in our values and our vision for California, and together we've scared the hell out of the corporate interests who are used to getting it their own way. We exposed the fact that their power depends on a system that is fundamentally corrupt. We showed with clarity and conviction that we do not have to accept the system they've built as inevitable. We proved something FDR said almost a century ago, that government by organized money is just as dangerous as government by organized mob. And we showed that a better California is possible, and that we know what it looks like, and we know how we'll get there together, day by day, vote by vote. Because together, all of us in this room believe in a not so radical idea: California can work for working people. Because we believe in a California where we have single-payer health care. A California where we have clean air to breathe and water to drink. A California where young people can imagine a future in the place they grew up. A California where corporations and billionaires who got rich here and then pulled the ladder up behind them do pay their fair share and are actually proud of their contribution to the 21st century society. That's us, that the rest of the world admires. That's what we're fighting for together. And that's what the corporations are hell-bent on stopping, because they know what we know. If we win, corporations lose. I've always been an optimist, and tonight I remain an optimist. None of this is far off. These dreams are not too big. The better California we've been fighting for is possible, and it's coming. I know that because I know Californians. I spent the last 6 months traveling up and down the state, talking to people in the Bay, in LA, in the Inland Empire, people in Santa Rosa and Riverside, in San Diego and San Jose, people in communities along the coast and in the valley and in the foothills. And everywhere I went, I heard the same thing. People are fed up. They know what's happening. They see it with their own eyes. They know who the villains are. They know they deserve better. And they're willing to fight with everything they have to win it. It will be hard work. It is hard work. But we're here tonight because it's happening, because we're making it happen. I've never felt more confident that California is the greatest place in the world and that Californians are the greatest people in the world. It has been the honor of my life to have the very best of them by my side. To my family, thank you for everything. None of this would be possible without your love and support. To my team.
All right, so you just heard Tom Steyer speaking tonight. Now, it wasn't officially a concession speech. I don't think we heard him say the words that he conceded. And we heard from Max Darrow early in the evening that his team was prepared or hoping for a late surge. They were prepared for the fact that as the initial results came in, that some of the other candidates might have been out in front of him, and they hope to close that gap as more results trickled in over the course of the night.
And right now, Steyer is polling at, not polling it, the results are in. He's about 17% of the vote, so he's comfortably in the third place position right now. Of course, the night is still young. We want to talk to a local candidate, though, who just moments ago conceded. San Jose Mayor Matt Mahan. He entered the race late, as we've been mentioning, but had the financial backing of Silicon Valley. Our Len Ramirez is live for us in San Jose with the very latest. Len, what can you tell us about the Mahan campaign?
Well, the Mahan campaign did officially end their campaign here tonight, noting that they did not get the kind of turnout and traction that they wanted from all of their supporters. Matt finished pretty far behind in this race. He blamed the fact that he joined this campaign late, only in January, and only had 4 months to really try and make a statewide campaign. Well, it really wasn't going to happen, and so Matt did have to step down, and you can see him there congratulating some of his supporters. But Matt Mahan said he did accomplish a lot of things in a short period of time. He shaped the debates. A lot of the questions that came in later debates were questions on topics that he brought up. He brought up a lot of the successes that San Jose has had lately with putting a third of the homeless people into sheltered homes, into motels, things like that, getting them off the streets and into tiny homes. He talked about San Jose being the safest big city. So those are things that he will continue to talk about as he resumes being the mayor of San Jose and not candidate Matt Mahan. But he will also look ahead, because he said this movement doesn't end tonight. If we have part of his speech, we can play that for you now, where he talked about possibly looking ahead and all of the accomplishments he's had.
I think we helped drive the conversation. At the end of the day, I was also the only candidate consistently talking about interim housing, Prop 36 to mandate treatment, the real solutions that we need, and we forced everybody else to react to us, and we're not going to stop doing that, believe me.
So Mayor Matt Mahan stepping out of the race, not getting enough votes. He knew it was going to be an uphill battle, but it's one that he wanted to fight. He was surrounded by supporters as well as his 2 young children that were on the stage with him as he was speaking, and he said really that was the reason that he was running for governor of California. Back to you.
All right, Linda Meir is live for us at the Matt Mahan campaign, and he just stepped out of the race. He conceded. We're also hearing that Antonio Villaraigosa has also conceded he's no longer in the governor's race.
Yeah, these are some of the candidates who had been polling in the single digits. And I think, it just was too steep a hill to climb.
The writing was on the wall.
Yeah, exactly. Well, our election night coverage, it continues next with an in-depth breakdown of the results that we have so far.
Plus, who will replace disgraced Congressman Eric Swalwell? A closer look at the race for his seat. That's next.
All right, polls have been closed for just about 90 minutes now. This is a live look from San Mateo County where ballots are still being counted. It's going to be a very long night for those election workers. A lot of voters turn in their ballots late this election cycle in particular. Welcome back to our California primary coverage.
And there is a lot that's on the line tonight for the top candidates in the race to become California's next governor.
Yeah, remember, only 2 will move on to the general election in November, and the battle for the top 2 spots has been really going back and forth since the numbers started coming in. Let's go ahead and take a live look at those results right now. With 48% of the vote counted so far, Steve Hilton leading the pack with 26.7%, followed by Javier Becerra with 25.8%. Tom Steyer, who we heard from just moments ago, with 19.7%. Skylar Hudak-Priones from the San Francisco Examiner joins us live with some insight on all this. Skylar, you were a moderator for one of the debate held here in San Francisco, the governor's debate. I want to get your reaction to these results. Any surprises?
You know, I think this is exactly what the polls in the final days of the race led us to believe we were going to see tonight. It has essentially, for the past few weeks, been a three-way race for 2 spots. And so far, the numbers are bearing out exactly like that.
And Skylar, I'm curious, as a moderator of the recent debate that we hosted in San Francisco, I'm curious, what were things that stood out to you between the candidates when you were talking to them?
You know, that evening, it became crystal clear that Becerra was starting to surge. He was clearly becoming the front runner at that moment in time. And Hilton obviously has been leading throughout the course of this race. I think that the question on everyone's mind for the past few weeks has been whether or not Steyer was going to be able to close the gap, initially with Becerra and then eventually with Hilton. I don't at all think that this election is a done deal at this point. However, we do know that Republicans turned out earlier than they normally do. What we've seen is that a lot of times Republicans will vote on election day. They really like to go and vote in person. And more than ever before in California politics, we've seen Republicans returning their ballots early while Democrats sat on theirs and waited to the very last minute.
It's interesting to hear from the different candidates today, and the common theme that we're hearing a lot from, whether it be Mahan, Steve Hilton, Tom Steyer, is affordability here in this state. Is that what you have found this entire election cycle, that that's really been the key theme?
No question. You talk to anyone, you talk to the grocery clerk at your local supermarket, you talk to the teacher at your preschool, that is the number one thing on absolutely everyone's mind. And it's clear that for these candidates, the polling that they did, the internal polling to show what California voters cared most about in this election cycle, obviously, affordability was the absolute number one thing on voters' minds. So we've heard every single candidate hammering away at it, and the differences have been their different approaches to it. You look at Hilton wanting to cut income taxes for anyone making $100,000 or under, but on the flip side, you look at someone like Becerra who wants to approach it from a completely different angle, and then you look at Steyer who's trying to approach it from an extremely progressive angle. And those are really the differences that voters have been kind of trying to decipher throughout the last few weeks of this election.
Skylar Hudak-Priones, thank you so much for joining us, the editor-in-chief of the San Francisco Examiner. And we're going to continue to follow the results of the California primary right here on CBS News Bay Area. The results are coming in fast and furious. Stay with us. All right, let's take another look at the race to become California's next governor, with 48% of the votes coming in. Right now, Steve Hilton leading with 26.7%. Javier Becerra coming in at 25.8%. Tom Steyer still holding strong at 19.7%. All right, to break down the results, I want to bring in CBS News Executive Director of Elections and Surveys, Anthony Salvanto, with a closer look at these numbers. Okay, Anthony, we're a little bit into the night so far. Is it still anybody's game?
For the most part, at least for these three, it is. Look, Hilton and Becerra have been trading places 1 and 2 all night. The question right now, I think, is can Steyer gain with half the votes in? So let me break this down a little bit. If I show you the map, now these yellow shaded counties are where Becerra is leading or winning at this point. If I dive into them, and I'll stick close to you, you've got, of course, San Francisco, where Steyer is leading. If I go down to San Mateo, he's in third. But down to Santa Cruz, okay, he's in second there. Santa Clara, he's back in third. The reason I point to all these coastal counties isn't just that they're around you. It's that these are places where you have a lot of Democrats. You know, traditionally, you get high Democratic turnout there, and Steyer is relying on that. So far, he's not making up the margins that he needs to, but we'll see as the rest of the votes come in. Otherwise, if I take you back and I take the state like this, I'm going to show you where the votes are coming from. I'm going to turn the state on its side here and go like that, and you'll see the bulk of the votes, especially for Becerra, are coming from Los Angeles, and they're coming from the Bay Area. So he is making up those margins he needs among those heavily Democratic areas. That's part of the story right there, Liz.
Anthony Salvanto, thank you so much for breaking down those numbers for us.
All right, let's go ahead and check in on the race for the District 14 seat. This is for the full term. This was Eric Swalwell's seat, and this is where the race stands so far. We have Aisha Wahab there in the lead so far with 35%. That number has been holding for at least the last few minutes tonight. Melissa Hernandez is following, but pretty far behind with 16.2%. Now, there's only 43% of the votes counted so far, so a lot of game to be played here as well. We have a lot more coming up, including a breakdown of the results of the very closely watched governor's race. We'll check on new numbers for you, and we'll be right back. Okay, let's go back to some of our local races. Voters in San Jose deciding on if the city should actually increase its hotel tax. Measure A would bump up the hotel tax from 10 to 12%. The city says that would help raise $10 million a year. And so far, it looks like the vast majority of voters, with 100% of the vote in, saying yes to that, 66%. So a resounding victory there. North Bay voters deciding on funding the SMART train. Measure B in Marin and Sonoma County would extend that 1/4 cent sales tax to fund the rail system all the way through 2059. Voters there also broadly supporting that. That appears as if it's going to pass. So we'll also check in on that measure result for Sonoma County as well. That was the result for Marin. We'll see if we have those numbers for you now. Here they are, mirroring pretty much the results. 70% of voters in Sonoma County want to approve that measure. And that's pretty much the results for the local races. These are regional measures, so both counties are going to take these votes into consideration, and those are going to pass. Contra Costa County deciding on extending a protection on open spaces. That's Measure A. That would extend that for 25 years. And like the other races in Sonoma and Marin, it looks like the vast majority of voters so far are supporting that, 68.9%. So a very wide gap with some of these local races here, basically resounding victories for some of those to continue to fund those initiatives.
Yeah, we're getting more confident with these numbers as the night goes on. Up next, we're going to have check-in with people who are counting your votes, county election workers.
Yeah, certainly a busy night ahead. We'll be right back after this. All right, welcome back. CBS News can make some projections on some of our Bay Area congressional races. No surprise here. Incumbent Ro Khanna going to advance to the general election, hoping to keep his District 17 seat. Also in the South Bay, another incumbent moving on to the general election, Zoe Lofgren taking a large lead in House District 18. Also not a surprising result there. Turning to the North Bay, CBS News can project that incumbent Jarrett Huffman will also advance past today's primary to the November election.
And now to the race for District 11. Some results that we have in there. That is the race to replace Nancy Pelosi in Congress. Scott Wiener, State Senator Scott Wiener, is out to a commanding lead, 42, almost 43% to Connie Chan, Supervisor Connie Chan with 28%, as you would expect if those numbers hold up.
And some results are in for the California governor's race as well, but will the lead hold?
Yeah, in our next hour, we have reporters all across California with the candidates and their campaigns tonight.
We're also watching our local races, including the ones to replace Nancy Pelosi and Eric Swalwell. Welcome back. I'm Sarah Donchie.
I'm Devin Feely.
And I'm Elizabeth Cook. Thanks so much for joining us for our special coverage of the California primary on CBS News Bay Area. Now, we've been following all the big races for you and keeping an eye on all the big decisions for the past 2 hours.
Yep, we have been building up to this night for months and months. You've certainly seen the ads from all of the campaigns. You saw fierce debates, lots of promises. This is what it all comes down to, though. This crowded field of candidates is narrowing down to 2 for the race for California's next governor. It is starting to take shape, but we might not know exactly who those candidates will be by the time the night is over.
Yeah, and our news team is spread out across the Bay Area and the entire state at watch parties and polling locations. We're going to be tracking all of it with you for the next hour and a half.
Yeah, the results are just starting to trickle in, or they've been trickling in all evening for you. And the top 2 candidates, regardless of party, will advance to the general election in November. Let's take a look at the numbers right now. With 49% of the votes counted so far, Steve Hilton still in the lead with 26.8%, followed by Javier Becerra with 25.8%. Tom Steyer holding at 19.7%. Our Ryan Yamamoto is in downtown Los Angeles with Javier Becerra's campaign. He came in tonight as a front runner in the polls, but as the results are coming in, we're seeing just how tight this race really is. Ryan, what are you hearing there?
You know, it's a very tight race, but we do see Javier Becerra and Steve Hilton going back and forth, neck and neck. And once again, the top two advance to the general election. If you look behind me right now, you can see a lot of people now gathering in front of the stage, awaiting for Javier Becerra to actually take the stage and address that crowd. We're expecting that to happen within the next hour. But in the meantime, he is ahead of fellow Democrat Tom Steyer, and that is good news for the Javier Becerra campaign. So once again, here in downtown Los Angeles, it's beginning to feel more like a party as supporters, staff, and volunteers gather tonight. I had a chance to speak with SEIU President David Huerta about why the union supported Becerra and what it means to him personally.
He has been somebody who's worked with labor, worked with SEIU. He's grounded with a very strong labor background. He comes from a labor family. His parents were immigrants. He's the son of immigrants. He's a story that we know. He's one of us, I like to say.
Beyond the politics, what does it mean to potentially have a Latino man leading the state of California?
You know, it means a lot, especially in this moment in time. Our community's gone through a lot. And I think he really represents what's possible.
So once again, quite an emotional night for a lot of people in the crowd here in downtown Los Angeles. You can see behind me once again, they're now moving toward the stage because they're expecting to hear from Javier Becerra within the next hour. He showed up here about 7:30 p.m. with his family, his wife, 2 daughters, and his son-in-law. They spent the night here in Los Angeles last night. Once again, getting ready to take the stage and address the crowd, this crowd waiting to hear from their candidate, Javier Becerra. Liz, back to you.
Flying live for us down in downtown Los Angeles. Thank you so much.
Okay, let's once again bring in 2 of our political experts joining us now, Caroline Heldman from Occidental College and Lonnie Chen from the Hoover Institution at Stanford. Okay, Caroline, I want to start with you, and I want to ask you about the race to fill Nancy Pelosi's seat. We have Scott Wiener now advancing to the general election, even though Pelosi endorsed Connie Chan late in the race. Any surprise there or cause for concern that Pelosi's endorsement didn't quite push her candidate to the top?
Well, it's interesting. We're definitely seeing this trend of the old guard not mattering as much. And in fact, a lot of races where younger candidates or more progressive candidates are really pushing against the Democratic Party. I'll say this is a trend that we started to see with Joe Biden and what happened during the 2024 race. And I think, if you look across the United States, we see a lot of young challengers, even someone like Nithya Raman, right, who is running against Karen Bass, someone she endorsed just a week earlier. So we're seeing this trend of like the upstart against the party establishment.
Lonnie, I'm just getting word that Katie Porter has conceded. She certainly did not perform the way that many had thought prior to some of her recent scandals. Lonnie, I'm going to come back to you in just a moment. We know that Steve Hilton is speaking at his watch party in Southern California, so let's go ahead and listen into that.
And it's long overdue. I want to just say something from my heart to every single person who's voted for me. We're not there yet, but it's looking good. It looks very much as if Californians really will have the chance to vote for change in November and take our state in a new direction, a fresh start for our state, which is long overdue. But I just want to say something to every single person who voted for me and every single person who voted in this election, whether you voted for me or not. I am here for you, for every single one of you. Because I have to tell you, it's the greatest honor of my life to stand before you now. Well over 1 million Californians have put their faith in me. the number is rising. But here's what I want to say as someone who is a new American citizen. So proud to be an American, so proud to be a Californian. What an incredible honor. The first time I've run for office, over 1 million people and rising, voting for me to take this incredible state in a new direction. And I know that some of you may be watching and saying, who is this guy with a funny accent? Thinks he can be governor of California. Well, you know, there was actually an immigrant who was governor of California not that long ago. Not that long ago. And I remember when I became an American citizen, that certain governor you may remember. He said, congratulations. He made a very nice video. He said, but Steve, you got to get the wrong jacket. You got the wrong jacket. And I made a pledge that day that one day I would get the jacket that Arnold told me to get on my road to being governor of California. And here it is. I am a proud American. There's the jacket. And I am a very proud Californian. A very proud Californian tonight. Arnold, that was for you. Yes, exactly. So, you didn't see it. All right. Look. And California. So I've been traveling this state for the last year. We started off a scrappy little startup, just a handful of rebels, believing that this state could be better than it is today. We're already the best place in the world, no question about that. There's nowhere better than California. But we all know that this state has gone off track and we need to get it back on track. And I've seen the struggle that Californians are facing today. That is the word, and it's a very sad thing to say about our beautiful state. And I've been on the road and doing hundreds of events and the town halls and all the people that come, and I see it in your eyes, the struggle of running a small business, the struggle for working people in California. Young people who don't see their future in California anymore, who think that they have to move to another state to have that dream of owning their own home that we used to offer better than anywhere else in the world. That's what we need to get back for California. The belief that we can offer that. And so to every young person watching in California, whether you voted for me or not tonight, I just want you to know that I see you. I believe in you. I know that you can do it. I know that we can do it. We can make California a place where when you work hard, it's not just a struggle. That's why my plan is so simple and practical, not ideological. We've had enough ideology in California, haven't we? It's time. It's time for positive, practical things. I'm fighting for working people in California so that you can keep more of what you earn. The best way to put money in people's pockets is to take less out of it in the first place. And that's what I'll do as your governor. Your first $100,000 tax-free. Simple, practical things to make life less of a struggle for working people and for small businesses. Most of my career has been in business. I've run small businesses, including restaurants. That is a tough business, by the way. And here's how we're going to help small business in California. Number one, simple, practical things. $800 every business has to pay to the government just for existing. That's crazy. We're going to get rid of that. We're going to help small business. Working people in California paying the highest gas prices in the country. That's insane when we have abundant oil reserves right here in California. As long as we are using oil and gas in California, let's use California oil and gas. That's the plan. And that way, we can get our gas prices down. $3 gas. That's the plan. Electric bills, the highest in the country, double the national average. We can have a sensible energy policy, cut your electric bills in half. This is the kind of thing that we need to make our state Cal-affordable. Cal-affordable. So we restore that basic dream, a good job where you make enough to raise your family in a home of your own, in a safe neighborhood with a good school so your kids can have a better life. That's the plan. That's what I'm fighting for every working person, every small business, every young person in California that wants to stay in this state. What have we done in California, the greatest place on earth, that people are leaving our state? For hundreds of years, people have come to California to follow their dreams. But now they're leaving. Well, that's what we're going to turn around. We are going to make California the best place in the world to start and run a business, to start and raise a family. This is the place. This is the place. This is the place where we're going to make that happen. And it's not just for all of us in California, not just for everyone in our state, our friends and neighbors, our families who are looking for a better life, that dream of a better life. It's actually really important for our country. Here's something you may have heard me say many times, and I'm going to say it tonight to everybody. This is not just any other state. California means to America what America means to the world. We have a responsibility to revive California so it is once again that symbol of everything that is great about our nation. Energy and optimism and ambition, the rebel spirit of California that's meant that over the centuries we've built the most incredible businesses and industries. We've turned barren land into the world's most fertile farmland, and when I'm governor, the water will be flowing to our farmers so we can grow the healthy food that's going to make our country and the world healthy again. Los Angeles, from a desert to the entertainment industry that turned the world into a place of joy and creativity. We're going to save our entertainment industry. We're going to bring Hollywood home. We are going to make every business, small, medium, every sector. That's who I'm fighting for. The energy, the optimism, the ambition, the innovation. We've got it all here in California. We've got everything we need for this state to be amazing again. We've got the most magnificent natural beauty. We've got the best weather. We've got the best people right here. We got the entrepreneurs and the innovators. We got the best universities. We've got everything we need in this state. We've got the rebel spirit. We've got the hustle. We've got the attitude. We've got everything we need to make California golden again, except for a good governor. And very soon, we will have that as well. We are gonna make that change happen. Change is coming. Change is coming to California. Change is coming. 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 And by the way, not just to California, it looks very much like change is coming to Los Angeles as well. How about that? I think a certain outsider candidate for mayor looks like he's doing pretty well tonight as well. I don't know what it is. Maybe something about what's gone wrong in California is that we've got a failed and broken system, and you've got a couple of outsiders who've never run for office before, leading in the race for governor, looking like he's going to be in the race for mayor. This is our moment. This is our time. It is the time for change. It's time for some balance. We are going to make that happen. And I just want to say, finally, a massive thank you to every single person who's helped make that happen, starting with every single one of you right here in this room. I know from everything I've ever been able to achieve in my life, it's never one person. It is always a team. And I'm proud, by the way, to be the first candidate for governor to put together a team to run, to bring the change we need. And I want to say thank you to my great running mates. Gloria Romero running for lieutenant governor. Michael Gates, the fighter from Huntington Beach, for attorney general. I see Herb Morgan out there. He's going to help us find all that waste in our government so we can cut taxes, cut spending, and get money back to you. That's the golden ticket for the Golden State, and there's much more to come. Wait till you see what we've got coming in the months ahead. Wait till you see our plans for change. Wait till you see the team that we're going to put together. You've seen nothing like it in California before. We are going to be better prepared than
All right, that was Steve Hilton speaking. Let's go back to our political analysts, Caroline Heldman and Lonnie Chen. Lonnie, we saw the showmanship that we've come to expect from Mr. Hilton. He's certainly in a good mood. Do you think he has reason to believe that these numbers will hold? And what is your reaction to his comments?
Well, look, the key for him is just to be in the top two. Whether he actually wins the primary or not is sort of a secondary question. Obviously, the opportunity to go on to continue to spread his message, to continue to boost Republican turnout as he looks ahead to November. I mean, those are some of the goals that he has. And he certainly does energize, I think, the Republican electorate more than a similar governor's candidate we had 4 years ago who, very nice guy, but did not provide the same measure of energy and uplift that I think Hilton will. So in that sense, mission accomplished tonight. We'll see how the campaign goes. Obviously, it's an 80-20 state from a registration perspective, so we'll have to see how this plays out. But I think we've seen this movie before.
Caroline, it's interesting. If you close your eyes and you listen, it sounds like national Democrats sound kind of similar to the messaging that we heard from Steve Hilton. Affordability, affordability, affordability. What do you make of that being the centerpiece of his comments just now?
I think it's really smart. Obviously, he's a very charismatic candidate, but he also has a populist message. I think he coined Californiability. I hadn't heard that, but boy, is that effective. He also invoked Arnold Schwarzenegger to remind Californians that, hey, you did elect a Republican governor not too long ago. So he is tapping into every centrist bone in his body. And you're right. Had you closed your eyes, you wouldn't have known he was a Republican.
I know. Interesting. So, Lonnie, I just want to warn you, we are expecting Javier Becerra to speak in a minute, so we may have to interrupt with those comments. But I do want to ask, we're about 50% of the votes in, so still a lot of game to be played. If the numbers hold with Steve Hilton at the top and Javier Becerra not far from behind him, does that surprise you? Would that mean that Hilton outperformed expectations?
I mean, certainly one of the big concerns that Republicans had was that they were going to get locked out of this top two, that you would have a situation where Chad Bianco would be a spoiler for a Republican presence in the top two. So in that sense, again, mission accomplished for Steve Hilton to be in that top two. That does represent an accomplishment, even though it was an expectation. I do think toward the end there was concern because of where Steyer was polling. Now, Steyer looks to be under that number that he was polling at. In some of the more optimistic polling, he was in the, let's call it the 23 to 25% range. Now he's at 20. He might get a few more points as this electorate turns a little bit more Democrat, with more and more of those Democratic ballots coming in, particularly from big counties like LA. But it looks so far like Hilton has certainly performed, if not exceeded expectations. You can imagine those numbers would be even higher had Chad Bianco actually dropped out of the race. All right, guys, thank you so much for your analysis. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with much more special election night coverage for you when we return.
Welcome back. You're looking at a live watch party from Connie Chan's watch party there in San Francisco. Connie Chan coming in second for the race to replace or to take Nancy Pelosi's seat after she retires this year. Scott Wiener took the top spot in this particular race.
All right, thank you, Liz. Well, tonight, the late ballot returns. That is a big story tonight. It's also keeping our local election workers very busy. Our Brad Hamilton, he is live in Contra Costa County at the Registrar of Voters office in Martinez. Kind of a Herculean effort for those election workers counting ballots tonight, Brad.
Yeah, Devin, we want to take you to the heroes right now. This has been the busiest floor. This is the mail room, and actually the machine right now. This is where all of the mail-in ballots that came in today are being scanned and being rescanned for signature verification, so then they can be counted, ripped into, and put a part of the tally. And that's going to take, obviously, more than just today to get done. What we have seen, again, is a surge in late ballots. A lot of mail-in ballots came in today. We heard that from the registrar here. She expects that it's going to be maybe 40% of the total vote that will be released tonight. So far, we have results for just 20%. But again, they expected that total turnout. They initially thought it would be 35%. They believe it's now 40 to 45% because of massive voter turnout, especially mail-in ballots today. We will see how that impacts these races as all these numbers come in. Devin.
All right, Brad Hamilton in Martinez, thank you very much. It's going to be a long night for the folks there. Thank you so much, Brad. We are going to have a lot more coming up after the break, and we're keeping an eye on the governor's race. We're also going to go live to Chad Bianco's party in Riverside. Stick with us. All right, welcome back. You can see that is Javier Becerra. He is one of the two leading candidates for governor. He was giving some folks a hug on stage. He is making his way to the podium. We are going to cut into him as soon as he begins to speak tonight. It's been a seesaw battle between Becerra and Hilton. Let's hear what he has to say from the podium tonight.
Primeramente, if I can begin by first saying to Carolina, Clarissa, Olivia, and Natalia, thank you so much. Gracias. Thank you to my family. You are. The California dream, it's alive tonight. And you see, I get to hug it and kiss it every night. We stand here at the birthplace of el pueblo de Nuestra Señora, la Reina de Los Ángeles del Río de Porciúncula, better known as LA. Like my family, LA is the starting line for millions of success stories across this state. And here in Hollywood's hometown, we love a good underdog story. So I got one for you. Se puede. Two immigrants, $12 and a dream. They came to California in pursuit of a better life. A construction worker and a clerical worker. They faced long odds, hard obstacles, doubt and discrimination. But they've got ganas, guts, grit, and game all wrapped up in one. It keeps them putting one foot in front of the other. Cut to 7 decades later, their son, the product of their sacrifice, first in his family to get to a university and get a degree, takes his own leap of faith. He dares to run for California's higher office, the office of governor. A campaign fueled by little more than grassroots support, some sweat equity, and the full faith and confidence that California is always worth the fight. Almost immediately, he's counted out, an afterthought, overlooked by many, outspent by a ton. Even called along the way to drop out and save us all the trouble. Well, guess what? The underdog stayed in the fight. Like my parents, I never gave up. Never stopped putting one foot in front of the other. Never stopped believing in the beacon-like goodness of California. And thankfully, neither did you. Because we know the true miracle of democracy is this. After all the exhausting ads are run, the pundits are spun, and the billionaires try to buy their way in, it's the people, only the people, who get the last word. And tonight, the people of the great state of California, in the greatest nation on earth, have spoken. Loudly and proudly. And while I take nothing for granted, there are lots of ballots left to be counted. It appears that we are on track to advance to November. One step closer to the son of those hard-working immigrants, Maria and Manuel Becerra, becoming the next governor of the great state of California. Now, that's more than a Hollywood ending, more than a milestone. It's the everyday miracle of living in a state that regularly makes the improbable seem inevitable. And I couldn't have done it without you. The doctors who clocked double shifts but still found time to canvass. The teachers who became our best volunteers the minute the afternoon school bell rang. The small business owners and union members who kept our economy running by day while walking door to door at night. The firefighters, the janitors, the caregivers, the nurses and longshoremen, the students. Most of all, I wouldn't be here without Carolina, Clarissa, Olivia, and Natalia. You are my superpower. You are my secret sauce. Everything I do for families just like ours who deserve their shot at the California dream. You know, I ran for the job because I know how important California is as a shining light to the world, radiating hope, freedom, opportunity, an unwavering belief in science, public schooling, enterprise, and foundational justice and human rights. California is America on fast forward. It's gleaming spotlights on the better angels of a more perfect union. A preview of an America, not just for the privileged or the partisans, but for all the people, by the people. An economic engine so powerful, so diverse, with more jobs, more capital, more R&D, more GDP. We lift up the entire nation. We are America's center tent pole. But I also know there are powerful forces aligned to darken our light. Distrust, disinformation, division, and distraction. Make no mistake, those forces did not want tonight to happen because their success depends on our failure. The last thing these forces want is a working-class governor with a law degree and a union card ready to call them out. They know that I can't be bought. They know I can't be bullied. And they know I will not back down. Now, we also recognize that despite all of California's growth and innovation, wealth and workforce, there are still too many Californians who feel shut out, priced out of the winner's circle. They feel disconnected from the economy, from our government, from the job market, the housing market, and from one another. In this new world, it feels like the old guarantees no longer apply, and the promise of a brighter future is an artifact of the past. For all of California's greatness, we sometimes struggle to meet the standards we set for ourselves or to be the example that a divided nation or the next generation of dreamers so desperately need us to be. Which is why, as your governor, I am ready to lead the fight to uphold California's promise. To make sure we have the governance worthy of our gifts. To ensure everyone, regardless of where you live, what you've learned, who you love, how you look, everyone has a rung on California's ladder of opportunity. It starts with access to affordable homes. We are going to launch a building revolution in California, starting with the thousands of shovel-ready housing projects already in the pipeline. And in America's wealthiest nation state, no excuse is acceptable for allowing people to live unsafely on our streets. A healthy economy also needs healthy communities. So we'll restore the promise of affordable health care with universal access in California, including our underserved and rural communities. We'll expand our global leadership on climate, safeguard our air, our water, and our coastline. And we will never surrender green growth jobs of the future to Washington politics or international competitors. We will invest in our schools like we mean it, expand early education, childcare, and paid family leave, the real family values. We will fortify our second-to-none system of higher education, delivering the next generation of California leaders. We will defend our children from the epidemics of gun violence and dangerous street drugs, and treat public safety like a first-order principle, because it is. We'll be big-hearted, sure, but tight-fisted with our taxpayer dollars. We'll build a government that runs not on promises, but on time and under budget. And one that holds itself accountable when it doesn't. We will protect the right to vote for every voter, for every community, in every corner of California. And we will defend the rights of women. No exception, no equivocation, no retreat. We will do all of these things because the world today needs California's shining example more than ever. Its optimism, its inclusion, its ambition and invention. That is what makes America great. Not the wealth and privilege, but one people, e pluribus unum, lifting all boats. You know, we have a White House that ran on America first and an affordable middle class. And almost immediately, they ran away from their own promises. Now the country is mired in an economy without mooring, a war without purpose, a job market without prospects, and an American community without common ground. Donald Trump is doubling down on decline and counting on people being too fearful, distracted, or gullible to fight back. Well, he didn't count on us. As governor, I will never back down from the threats of small cowards in big offices. I sued Trump more than 120 times before, and I won, and I won, and I won. And anyone who wants to come at California will have to go through me. And here's the good news. California is bigger than Trump. Our values are undeniable and undeportable. And one day, when power's pendulum swings back against the chaos, the cruelty, and the corruption, when all that remains of MAGA are broken promises, unpaid debts, and empty ballrooms, the world will look once again for American renewal and for the state of California to lead the way. More than ever, California needs our voices and our values. To the people and voters of California,
Becerra give his election night speech. He is the lead Democrat in the race for California's governor. We're going to go ahead and bring in our two political analysts. So Caroline and Lonnie, what I heard was a speech that was heavy on biography and then political slogans, but a little bit light on policy specifics. Caroline, give us your opinion first off.
Well, I think it's an interesting contrast to Steve Hilton, right? They both had an immigration story. They both talked about affordability. Steve Hilton, I would argue, is the more charismatic candidate, but Javier Becerra was speaking Spanish. He was talking about reproductive rights. He was going to all of the kind of liberal touch points. I think we've just seen the preview, the likely preview of what will happen heading into the general election, and he must be very relieved that it looks like Steve Hilton is going to be his competitor. It's a 7-point gap between Hilton and Steyer at this point in time. So still, the race is not called yet, obviously, but Becerra does seem pretty happy and pretty relieved because he will win given the partisan advantage for Democrats in California.
All right, Lonnie, just a quick question for you. So right now we've got about 50% of the vote in. It's been a seesaw battle between Hilton and Becerra all night. It looks like if these results hold that Becerra will come in second. But one of the curiosities of this race is that because it's a heavily Democratic state, he becomes the front runner, right?
Yeah, I mean, certainly you'd have to assume so, given the registration difference between Democrats and Republicans. Democrats obviously far outnumber Republicans in the state. I do think what you saw in the Javier Becerra speech was somebody who was, in essence, kind of gliding over the potential contest against a Republican, sounding all of the traditional themes, sort of heavy on bio, heavy on introducing who he is, maybe to voters who didn't know or haven't voted yet, will vote in the general election, but not the primary. This is an example of someone who looks like he wants to coast to victory. And the question is going to be, will that actually happen as we go over the next several months? What kind of a campaign will Steve Hilton wage against him? These are all the kinds of things we have to look at. But it certainly does look like Hilton versus Becerra is pretty well set at this point.
All right, thank you guys very much for your analysis tonight. We're going to sneak in a quick break. Stay with us. We'll have all of the up-to-date results after the break.
All right, the election night excitement continues. Welcome back to our California primary coverage.
There is a lot on the line tonight for the top candidates, especially in the governor's race.
That's right. Remember, only 2 will move on to the general election in November, and the picture of who those 2 candidates could be is beginning to take shape, at least for now. Let's take a look at the results for California governor right now. With about 50% of the votes counted so far, Steve Hilton holding the top spot there at 26.9%, followed by Javier Becerra, very close behind at 25.8%. Tom Steyer holding steady at 19.8%. Now let's move on to some of the local districts. District 11, Nancy Pelosi's seat. Here are the top 4 candidates who are running to replace her. State Senator Scott Wiener has advanced to the runoff, and Connie Chan is holding on tight to second place. Our Kara St. Cyr has been moving around San Francisco, speaking with the different candidates, and she is live at Connie Chan's watch party at El Rio on Mission Street. Kara, what do you know?
All right, so yes, we are at the wheel on Mission right now. Supervisor Chan just wrapped up her speech where she was thanking all of her supporters for coming out tonight and really pushing her to that second place spot, because that's really what this congressional race has come down to. Who is going to get that number 2 slot? Now, she's been able to hold on to that number 2, especially since she got the crown jewel endorsement from Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi, and she's really been able to hold on to that, and it's given her a boost with her supporters. And we caught up with her earlier today, and she said she was incredibly grateful for that.
It was an honor to have Speaker Emerita Nancy Pelosi endorsing our campaign and absolutely changing the tide. But we also know that what it means is it's also bringing along San Francisco voters and making sure that they vote and know what we're about. San Franciscans know that when it's time to vote, we turn out to vote. So I'm confident that we will be turning out to vote.
She said that she hasn't spoken to Nancy Pelosi yet at this point in the night, but she does expect to give her a call at some point to report on what's happened here tonight and how excited, she is to have this second place spot. So I'm going to send this one back to you. There's a lot of celebration and happiness going on in the room right now, but I'm going to send it back.
Yes, quite the party going on Mission Street in San Francisco. Kara St. Cyr, thanks so much. Sarah?
Well, there was a lot of scandal in the governor's race. The leading Democratic candidate, Eric Swalwell, forced to drop out after multiple accusations of sexual misconduct. He has denied those allegations, but he did resign from his congressional seat. Swalwell has been representing District 14 in the East Bay, and a special election to serve out the rest of his term is going to be held later on in the month. But tonight's race is about the full term for the District 14 seat, and here is where things stand so far. Let's take a look at the numbers there. Right now, it does seem like Aisha Wahab is holding her lead at 35%, trailed by Melissa Hernandez and then Wendy Huang. But still, only 43% of the vote counted. Those numbers could change, but Aisha Wahab with a commanding lead so far. All right, up next, a big test for Prop 50 tonight. This is the first time voters will be casting their ballots under the new districts. We'll have more after the break. All right, welcome back to our special election night coverage. We're going to go over some of the local ballot initiatives right now. Voters in San Jose deciding on increasing the city's hotel tax. This is San Jose Measure A, and it looks like so far the vast majority of voters are going to pass that with 100% of the vote in, 65% saying yes. Let's go to the North Bay now. North Bay voters deciding on funding the SMART train, Measure B in Marin and Sonoma County, respectively. In Marin, with 100% of the vote in, 70% of voters want this to pass, and that looks like that will happen. And let's check on that same measure in Sonoma County, where the results are almost identical, 70% of voters saying yes there. Voters in Contra Costa County are also deciding on extending a protection on open spaces. This is the Urban Limit Initiative. 68% of voters there want that provision to pass. So some of those local measures passing with wide margins. We have a lot more coming up after this short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
And welcome back to our election night coverage. CBS News can make some projections on candidates who are going to advance to the general election. Let's go ahead and start in San Francisco. State Senator Scott Wiener, he is the top vote getter in the District 11 race to replace Nancy Pelosi. He's got 41% of the vote at this point. It is now a battle for second place, with Connie Chan holding a lead over tech millionaire Showkat Chakrabarti. You can see she's got nearly 29%, almost double the number of votes that Chakrabarti has currently. Well, turning now to the North Bay, CBS News can also project that incumbent Jared Huffman will also advance past today's primary election to the November election. He's got a majority at this point, 51%. The closest challenger is in the low double digits. In the South Bay, Ro Khanna is going to advance to the general election as well. He is hoping to hold on to his District 17 seat. He will likely face a Republican challenger. You see them there with 17 and nearly 13% respectively. And a quick look at the race in the newly created District 1. This is one of those new districts. It was created by Proposition 50 to squeeze out another Democratic seat in Congress. Both Republican James Gallagher, he is out in the lead at this point with 47%. But Democrat Mike McGuire, he's also going to advance to the general election in November with 37% and change at this point. Now we're going to be right back with more results. Stick with us. We're going to sneak in a quick break.
Welcome back to our special election night coverage.
Yeah, welcome back. So there was a lot of things on the ballot tonight, but the biggest of all, the race for governor.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at those results right now. With about 50% of the votes counted so far, Steve Hilton is in the lead with about 26.9%, followed by Javier Becerra with 25.8%. Tom Steyer coming in at 19.8%. But there's a lot of local races we're going to keep an eye on. Stay with us.
Hi, I'm Sarah Donchie. Welcome to Election Night.
Yeah, I'm Devin Feely.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us. I'm Elizabeth Cook. You are watching our special coverage of the California primary on CBS News Bay Area. And we've been keeping track of all the races and all the major decisions all night long.
Yes, the most closely watched of all of these races, determining who will go head-to-head in November to become the next governor of California. It's been a very crowded field of candidates, whittled down, and eventually only two will remain.
Our team has been watching the polls very closely, bringing you the results in all of tonight's races. We also have crews that are across the Bay Area and the state with the candidates as they watch those returns come in.
Yeah, it's been a really exciting night. The results have been coming in over the last few hours. Here's a look, though, at where the race for governor stands right now. About 50% of the votes have been counted so far. Right now, Steve Hilton leads with 26.9%, followed by Javier Becerra at 25.8%. Tom Steyer remaining in third at 19.8%. Now, as we mentioned, the top two candidates, regardless of party, will advance to the general election in November. Our Ryan Yamamoto is in downtown Los Angeles with Javier Becerra's campaign. A good night for him. That Democrat came in tonight as a front runner in the polls, and it looks like he will be advancing to the general election. In the last half hour, Becerra took the stage and spoke to his watch party. Ryan, what are you hearing there?
Well, Liz, tonight was indeed a celebration for the Javier Becerra campaign here in downtown Los Angeles. As those primary results for California governors started to come in tonight and throughout tonight, we saw that Becerra and Republican Steve Hilton were going neck and neck, bouncing back and forth. But the important thing, he solidified one of the two top spots to run for California governor in the November general election. And Becerra took the stage behind me. He was introduced by his wife and his two daughters as he took the stage and talked to his supporters. The former Secretary of Health and State Attorney General surged in the polls, showing the chaotic nature of this primary because only 2 months ago he was trailing, polling in the single digits. Tonight he talked about his big comeback in this race.
he dares to run for California's higher office, the office of governor. A campaign fueled by little more than grassroots support, some sweat equity, and the full faith and confidence that California is always worth the fight. Almost immediately, he's counted out, an afterthought, overlooked by many, outspent by a ton. Even called along the way to drop out and save us all the trouble. Well, guess what? The underdog stayed in the fight.
And Becerra acknowledging a lot of ballots still need to be counted, but still believing he's well on track to be one of the two candidates who will face off in the general election tonight. Becerra simply ending his speech on to November. So it does appear we're going to have a classic matchup, Becerra and Hilton, a Democrat and a Republican. Liz, back to you.
All right, Ryan, thank you so much. And as he said, Republican Steve Hilton has actually been slightly leading over Becerra tonight. Here he is speaking earlier at his election watch party in Southern California. He had this message for his supporters tonight.
Change is coming to California. Change is coming to California, and it's long overdue. I want to just say something from my heart to every single person who's voted for me. We're not there yet, but it's looking good. It looks very much as if Californians really will have the chance to vote for change in November.
Meanwhile, billionaire Tom Steyer is still in third place right now, holding steady at about 19.8%. But he's still optimistic about his chances in this race. Max Darrow was there when Steyer spoke and joins us live now with details. Matt, what's it look like there now?
Tom Steyer spoke at about 9:30 tonight, and just literally about a minute ago, he finally walked out of the building where he had been spending the last hour and a half thanking supporters one by one here at the Regency Ballroom in San Francisco. Steyer certainly did not deliver a concession speech when he took the stage tonight. He's still sitting in that solid third place spot at this time, but time is going to tell if he can really close that gap and actually become a true contender for that number 2 spot that would let him advance to the November general election runoff. He did insist that people be patient and wait as more votes come in. They emphasized from the get-go that they believe the later Democratic votes that came in at the last minute would play in his favor. During his speech, he emphasized many of his campaign points that he'd been talking about the entire campaign trail. Listen to what he had to say.
The corporate interests came at us with everything they had, and we didn't back down. We were absolutely uncompromising in our values and our vision for California. And together, we've scared the hell out of the corporate interests who are used to getting it their own way. We exposed the fact that their power depends on a system that is fundamentally corrupt. We showed with clarity and conviction that we do not have to accept the system they've built as inevitable. We proved something FDR said almost a century ago, that government by organized money is just as dangerous as government by organized mob. And we showed that a better California is possible and that we know what it looks like and we know how we'll get there together, day by day, vote by vote. Because together, all of us in this room believe in a not so radical idea: California can work for working people.
So at the beginning of the night, right before the votes started to come in, the Steyer campaign emphasized they knew it would be a slow start. They thought overnight, as more and more ballots are counted, they would be able to close the gap and see where that takes Steyer, if he can be in that number 2 spot. As more ballots come in, we'll see how it all plays out. We'll send it back to you.
Max Darrow live for us, the Tom Steyer watch party in San Francisco. Max, thanks so much. Devin?
And another one of our closely watched races. For the first time in almost 40 years, Nancy Pelosi, her name is not on the ballot to represent San Francisco in Congress. The former House Speaker is retiring after her term is up in early January. Here are the top 4 candidates coming into the evening at this point. You can see that State Senator Scott Wiener, he's got 41% of the vote at this point, a pretty commanding lead. He is expected to advance to the general election, followed by Connie Chan with a respectable 28 and change percent at this point. She's holding on tight to that second place. Our Kara St. Cyr, she's been one of the busiest, hardest working reporters tonight, has been all over San Francisco covering this congressional race. Kara.
Yeah, so I am still at Connie Chan's party where everybody is still celebrating because they do believe that she is going to be the person that's going to take that second place spot, as the polls seem to be reflecting. And as we all know, this congressional race was really about that number 2 slot, not who's going to be the front runner. And it's looking right now like Connie Chan is going to be that person. So it'll be her and Scott Wiener that we'll likely see in November. And both have lots of experience. Both have a reputation here in San Francisco. So it'll be interesting to see the both of them compete for that coveted seat. And of course, with Chakrabarty himself, like you said, Devin, he is polling at that 14%, but we haven't heard anything from him yet about him stepping down at this time. And it seems like he's going to hold on until all of those ballots are counted. Now, you know, whoever takes this spot, it's going to be a historic moment for San Francisco, the first time in 40 years that this seat is going to be up for grabs. And whoever gets it, it's going to be memorable and it's going to be historic for the city. Back to you.
All right, Kara St. Cyr live in San Francisco. A generational opportunity for voters with that seat open for the first time in 40 years. Our election night coverage, it continues next.
That's right. Yes, still a lot more votes to be counted, guys. We'll have more results in the closely watched governor's race. We'll also check in on some of our local measures.
We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back to our coverage of the California primary election. Let's check in again on the governor's race. Here's a look at the latest results. A little bit more than 51% of the votes counted so far, and Steve Hilton gaining an even stronger lead now with 27.2%, followed by Becerra with 25.6%. Tom Steyer holding steady at 19.7% in third place, followed by Chad Bianco and Katie Porter. Devin?
All right, thank you very much. So tonight, the late ballot returns. That is a big story, and it's also keeping our local election workers very busy tonight. Our Brad Hamilton, he is live in Contra Costa County at the registrar's office in Martinez. How is the work going there, Brad?
Well, I can tell you I've seen cinnamon rolls, pizza, you name it. It's here. And these people are working really hard. They are still counting. They're right now counting mail-in ballots that have come in today, which there was a huge surge of that, and also in-person voting today. We actually just spoke with Kristen Connolly, who is the registrar, the county registrar here. She says that they are now tracking at 40 to 45% total voter turnout. Initially, just last week, they were thinking that might be 35%, so that is much higher than they initially anticipated. And as to how they're adjusting to all of this, Connolly said they've actually had to pour in some more resources to help them get all of these mail-in box ballots back today.
The volume is significant in our drop boxes that we've seen. In fact, we've deployed more resources, an additional team of folks to help out the existing 3 teams of drop box drivers in order to be emptying those drop boxes to make sure they do not fill up on voters.
Okay, Connolly told us that they're actually going to have a total number of ballots, maybe less tonight, that they're going to be able to release to the public. It's generally around 50%, but they're saying because of all that late surge in ballots, maybe that total release tonight is just 40% of the vote. And so obviously we are actually seeing right now action live. These are some of the ballots that have just been processed and are going to go to sorting to go upstairs. So we're going to let them do the work because we know this has been a long day. A lot of people telling us they got in at 6 a.m. They're here till midnight, and then that man actually told me he's back here at 6 a.m. to continue this great work of democracy.
All right, Brad, thank you very much. That is an interesting peek behind the curtain and a reminder that the results that we have tonight are written in pencil, not in ink. Well, tonight is also a big test for California's newly redrawn congressional maps. The old one is on the left. The new one is on the right. It's all a product of Proposition 50 that was passed by voters last November. It allowed congressional districts to be reshaped, hopefully in Democrats' favor. 5 districts in particular were targeted. Now, they could flip, theoretically, from red to blue, giving Democrats more seats in the House after the November midterms. But the real question of the night is Proposition 50 working in the way that Democrats had intended? So far, we're seeing a little bit of a mixed picture. All 5 of those districts, they're split. There is 1 Republican and 1 Democrat that are pulling forward as the top 2 candidates in all of those races. In District 1, voters cast 2 ballots, one under the old maps. That was to fill the remainder of the late Doug LaMalfa's term. Republican James Gallagher is leading that race. You can see right there with a commanding lead at 61%. And the second ballot is for the full congressional term under those newly redrawn boundaries, which now includes parts of Sonoma County. It dipped down to include parts of Santa Rosa. Well, right now, Republican James Gallagher is also leading there. He is followed by Democrat Mike McGuire. That is a closer race in that newly redrawn District 1. Here is a look at another one of those redrawn battlegrounds. It is District 6. It covers parts of Yolo, Sacramento, and Placer counties, and the candidates include Congressman Kevin Kiley, who was the Republican, previously represented District 3, but is now running as an independent. He is currently leading the pack, although you've got a pretty close 3-way race right there, as you can see. All right, Sarah.
Okay, Devin, so we do want to take a look at some of our local races. This battle of 2 measures in San Francisco has gotten a lot of attention. Prop D, or the overpaid CEO tax, would raise taxes on companies where the CEOs make at least 100 times more than the employee. And let's take a look at that right now. With 97% of the vote in, rather, it looks like the majority of people are voting no on this measure at this time, with 55.4% of voters rejecting Measure D. The competing measure is Measure C, and that would increase tax exemptions for small and mid-sized businesses while also raising tax rates for larger companies for the period of 1 year. And right now, with 97% of the vote in, the vast majority of voters with this measure as well seem to be rejecting it. So we don't have to worry about the scenario for now of both C and D passing, because if it did, the measure that had the most votes would go into effect. So right now, both of those being rejected. Oakland voters are deciding on a measure that would add a new tax for single-family homes and apartment units in Measure E. It would allow for a parcel tax from $131 to $192 a year. And right now, with 100% of the vote in, 54.3% of voters are rejecting that measure as well. Mayor Barbara Lee had been pushing for that measure, saying that the city could raise $34 million every year for 9 years. But right now, the vast majority of voters are saying no. Also in Oakland, tax relief for some small businesses on the ballot. Measure C would cut business tax bills for the next year. That could be extended depending on what the city council does with this. And right now, this one seems to be incredibly popular. 76.5% of the votes saying yes for Oakland's Measure C. So that is a big, big margin of victory there. All right, we have a lot more coming up. We are keeping an eye on the governor's race for you. Those numbers are going to be coming up after the break. Stay with us.
Welcome back to our coverage of the California primary election. Let's take a look at the race of the night, the California governor's race, where the top two will advance on to the November election here. As you can see, Steve Hilton still leading the race with 27.2%, followed by Javier Becerra, 25.6%. Tom Steyer holding steady at 19.7. Chad Bianco follows behind him. Katie Porter coming in with 4.9%. Now, tonight we actually were expecting to be at Katie Porter's watch party, but she didn't hold one after all. Instead, Porter has conceded her race after struggling in the polls, and she posted a message for her supporters.
I also want to say thank you to Californians who opened up their homes for me to come talk to their friends and neighbors about this campaign, to businesses who let me tour, learn more about their industry, talk to their employees, to nonprofits who shared the challenges that they face and the way that they're solving problems. And I want to say thank you to the other candidates for running spirited races, for having good debates about important issues.
Meanwhile, San Jose Mayor Matt Mahan and his fellow Democrat Antonio Villaraigosa, former mayor of Los Angeles, have also conceded tonight. And CBS News can make some projections on some of the Bay Area congressional races. No surprise here, Ro Khanna will advance to the general election, hoping to keep his District 17 seat. And turning to the North Bay, CBS News can project that incumbent Jared Huffman will also advance past today's primary to the November election.
Our election night coverage continues next with an in-depth breakdown of some of the results that we have so far.
Plus, who will replace disgraced Congressman Eric Swalwell? A closer look at the race for his seat next. So there was plenty of scandal and controversy in the governor's race. The leading Democratic candidate at one point, Eric Swalwell, was forced to drop out after multiple accusations of sexual misconduct. This upended the race. Swalwell denied the allegations, but he did resign from his congressional seat as a result of all of that. Swalwell has been representing District 14 in the East Bay. A special election to serve out the rest of his term will be held later on in the month. But tonight's race is about the full term for the District 14 seat. And here is where the results stand so far. We're still hovering at about 45% of the vote counted, but Aisha Wahab is in the lead with 34.7%. Melissa Hernandez trailing behind with 16% of the vote. Kevin Coe following this race from Fremont Beauty School, where attorney Rocky Israni is holding her watch party tonight. Kevin?
Yes, Sarah, you just mentioned Wahab's currently with a considerable lead. The California state senator was the front runner coming into this race with some major endorsements on her hip, including the California Democratic Party. But you mentioned it, here in Fremont at Rocky Israni's watch party, it is starting to clean up, but don't let the images fool you. This campaign team has not conceded, not yet. They are still waiting until the ballots are still counted throughout the rest of the week. You know, Israni is a political outsider who raised the most funding out of any District 14 candidate, including more than $1 million of her own money. On the other side, State Senator Aisha Wahab is hoping to make even more history. She's the first Afghan American elected to the California state legislature. There's also Melissa Hernandez, the former Dublin mayor, who told me her campaign focused on getting around town and meeting people face to face.
I feel good. I feel that the people of the Congressional District 14 are excited to have new leadership come in, and I also feel that they have a lot of trust in me.
I personally agree with the American public when we say that D.C. is out of touch, and that is why I'm saying I'm going to run for this seat. I'm going to let the voters decide who they want to be their elected representative and not some puppet from D.C.
I mean, we understand it's going to be a while before we actually know what the results were. I think tonight was more about the volunteers, the people that have put their trust, whether it's the endorsers or the donors, they put their trust in me. I wanted to bring everyone together to celebrate that process.
Speaking of that process, here in District 14, well, we'll be right back here in a couple of weeks. That's because there will be a special primary election to fill Eric Swalwell's current seat. So a long road ahead for East Bay voters. Back to you.
All right, Kevin Coe, thank you very much. Another race that is getting a lot of attention this year is the race for California Insurance Commissioner. Right now, you can see the top vote getters right there. And the incoming commissioner, they're going to be facing a huge challenge and a hurdle with rising home insurance costs following the LA wildfires. In Alameda County, Ursula Jones-Dixon is trying to stay in office as district attorney. She is the incumbent. Her challenger is the recalled district attorney, Pamela Price, who is back on the ballot 19 months after being ousted by voters in late 2024. Also in third is attorney Gopal Krishnan. In Santa Clara County, Deputy District Attorney Daniel Chung is hoping to unseat his boss, Jeff Rosen, the incumbent in the district attorney's office there. You can see that Jeff Rosen has a commanding lead with 60% of the vote in so far and 100% of the ballots counted at this point. Chung and Rosen, they have had their disagreements in the past. It actually ended with Rosen benching Chung. Liz?
Devin, thank you for that. All right, we have a lot more coming up, including the closely watched governor's race. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. It has been a long and very busy night. And we just want
very long.
Very long. We just want to take a moment to catch you up on some of the big races.
All right, the one we've all been talking about. Here's a live look at the latest results for the governor's race. A little over 50% of votes have been counted so far, 53%. Steve Hilton gaining an even stronger lead there. He now leads with 27.3%, followed by Javier Becerra, 25.6%. Tom Steyer remains likely in the third there at 19.7%.
All right, so here is a look at the Congressional District 11 in San Francisco. That is the race to replace Nancy Pelosi. Scott Wiener has a pretty commanding lead at this point, about 41%. Connie Chan with 28 and change.
All right, thank you so much for joining us on this special election night coverage. Thank you, and we will see you tomorrow.
All the results on CBSNews.com.
Hi, I'm Sarah Donchie. Welcome to Election Night.
Yeah, I'm Devin Feely.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us. I'm Elizabeth Cook. You are watching our special coverage